right. Can you guys hear me? Just trying to. Okay. Yeah, just give me 1 second here. Okay. Let's go here. Okay. Let's just go with it. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All right. So, yeah, this is the first time for me. I haven't done this in a while. But how's everybody? Is the sound good? Okay. Give me just 1 second here. Maybe I can. Perfect. That works. So let me just. Okay. Yeah, just looking at the comments here. This is really casual stream. Just want to, address some things. Let me see here. Shout out to Real Islam, Adnan Bosnian. Thanks for joining. Untold Stories. Man des Friedens. Gute Nacht, if you're from Germany. Sam. Who else we got? Yeah, anyone else in the chat? Salam. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, salam alaikum, everybody. So, yeah, I just wanted to gauge some kind of, open discussion. If you guys have any questions or if you want to talk about anything, I just wanted to address like some ideas here. Before I forget, let me just see here. Yeah, okay. So if you're new to this channel, I just want to give you a brief summary. Basically, I see the Quran as the unaltered, protected word of God. And it basically explains reality exactly as it is. And what seems to be happening is, in our world today, we see that they have made the world around us to be at odds with the Quran, the Quranic account. So we use that as a guidance. Where's the real Mecca? Okay, well, we'll get to that. That's you know, that's a massive undertaking, by the way. I've been at this for a few months, almost a year actually, and what it seems like is that we have been lied to on a massive scale, just absolutely massive scale. But before, I want to just maybe read this before I answer that, so I don't forget. I made this post because I feel that there's so much injustice in how the Quran has been translated. So this is just an attempt, really. These are from the ayat of Allah in the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And there is not from a creature in the earth nor a bird flying by its two wings except nations, examples of you all. We have not squandered in the book from a thing, then to their Lord will they be gathered. This means that the Quran is comprehensive, right? So nothing is neglected from it. And it's used to explain itself, because if it encompasses everything, then it's basically its own self-study guide. And if you obey most of whoever is in the earth, they mislead you about Allah's way. They follow not except the assumption, and they do not accept conjecture. So the Quran opposes the majority, and it identifies the baselessness of the majority's claims. And this is just a general principle. Obviously, there's going to be times where there's exceptions to the rule, but the vast majority of the rule, it doesn't negate the rule, right? The majority are astray. And today we dispatch in all nations a witness upon them from themselves. And we came by you a witness upon these, and we may descend upon you the book, a clarification for everything, and a guidance and a mercy and a disclosure for the yielders. Basically, this is what literally Muslimin amounts to, people that yield. Sometimes people put submit in there, but yielding is, I feel, less, it's more of a positive attribute. Sometimes submission can be seen as a negative way, but both of them I see as equally correct. The Quran is a clarification for everything, and hence applicable forever, because everything is encompassed in time and space. So everything in time and in space. And completed is your Lord's word genuinely and fairly. There is no modifier for his words, and he has the hearing of the knowing. The Quran is complete and eternal. An Arabic Quran, other than bearing deviation, surely perhaps they be vigilant. So the Arabic Quran has no deviation in it, okay? And so it can only cultivate consciousness of the world around us, because it's eternally true and completely true. And all Muslims already agree on this, except for the majority sects, which will say something along the lines of, no, the Quran has many different types of recitation. The Quran varies according to the manuscripts. The manuscripts didn't bother to have all of the diacritical marks. And, to each their own. I'm not suggesting people follow any way or another, but clearly objective truth exists in this world. And if you care about objective truth, you're going to follow the breadcrumbs where they lead, right? And is it not sufficient for them that we may descend upon you the book, proceeding upon them? Indeed, in that is surely a mercy and a remembrance for a people who confide. So basically, believers are the ones that have confidence, amana, safety, security, confidence, trust, right? This is a product of this group of people trusting in these verses wholeheartedly, even if they don't understand everything about them. Because there's something within us that we know is connected to what Allah created. And even a child will tell you that God exists, that He's one, that He created everything, He's beyond our perception, and that He gave us all of these signs, all these enjoyments to remind us that He is not except the only Lord, right? So the Quran is sufficient in its ayat, and it's uniquely helpful to believers because the people who get the mercy and the remembrance are those who believe, those who have confidence in its ayat. And like this, we have transmitted to you an Arabic Qur'an for you to herald, mother of the cities. So this is what I'm going to get to with your comment. What's the username again? Quranisha Islam. Yeah, Quranisha Islam. I'll get to that. Mother of the cities. Okay. And whoever is around her and herald day of the collection. No doubt in it, a group in the haven. The haven is basically Jannah. Okay. And a group in the conflagration. You can look at these terms. It basically, that's the word in Arabic, as-sa'ir, which is, they translate as the blaze. But the blaze doesn't really give you a scale as to how incredible that is, right? In hell. The Arabic Quran, according to this verse, is Allah's exclusive transmission. What they would call in Arabic today, wahi. So it's not just, it's not revelation. Like, you can use the word revelation for wahi, but when Allah uses it in the Quran, He uses it as some kind of a communication, transmission, inspiration. We inspired the messengers. And because this is related to a Jannah and a Jahannam, right? This means it's valid for eternity. So even when time ends at the hour, the Quran will still be true. And when everybody and everything is sorted and paired in its appropriate place, because right now in the dunya, things are just, they're waiting to be paired, right? All the souls, all of the believers, all of the criminals. The Quran will still be true because it talks about things outside of time and space, outside of human understanding. So what we see in Sunni Islam basically is an open challenge to the plain reading of these verses. Okay, and you can't hold two contradictory statements to be true, because according to the Quran, even according to objective truth, if there was any contradiction in the Quran, it would not be from God, right? The Quran is not a sufficient guidance for many people, many Muslims today, because they have these other scholarly books of jurisprudence that's called the Sunnah. That's just one of them too. I mean, you have books of tafsir, books of fatwas, you have books of history, just endless material. You can sometimes see a lot of these shayukh. They're always pictured, you know, like in front of their books. They're pictured in front of their books because that's what they value so much. That's their treasure. And the Quran is clear, the treasure in its ayat is the Quran, right? The majority agreed upon scholarly narrative holds sway as the most correct explanation by consensus. It's not by truth. It's not by what can be proven and determined to be objectively true. It's by what people agree upon the most. And this is called in Islam ijma'. So doesn't that sound like democracy? Like, for example, we have all kinds of things in the Quran that talks about the majority are astray. I've heard from somebody, I haven't checked it myself, but basically anytime you see that word akthar, aktharahim, most of them, it's almost always negative. It's always like most of them are astray. Most of them do not know. Most of them are kafirin, you know? So you can agree on falsehood in this life. I mean, we see it all the time. Most people vote officially, they vote for a tyrant, or they'll vote for incompetent leader, right? Um, for example, they tell us in the Council of Nicaea that they determined, Emperor Constantine and his people of Nicaea, they determined that Jesus Christ is part of a Trinity, and that he's the Son of God, and that he is God, astaghfirullah. So that was determined by consensus, right? It's not by actually what's true. So when you see the hadith about, oh, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that, my ummah will never agree upon falsehood. You have to think about, what that could mean, right? I mean, clearly the ones that agree upon falsehood, provable falsehood, that's not his ummah. It's just very obvious, right? And that's why in the Qur'an, the words of the messenger, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, he says very openly, my people have abandoned هذا القرآن. They've taken هذا القرآن as a thing abandoned. He doesn't say ummah. He says his qawm, his people. What you see also is many verses in the Quran today don't even apply, according to actual scholars today in Islam. And in a sense, they follow something called abrogation. But this word nasakh, it doesn't mean abrogation. I can show you how that is the case. So abrogation, funny enough, is the name of a script of Islam. It just means transcription, okay? Nasakh, you can see where this word is used in the Quran. It just means something that's written down, okay? So in a sense, there is no abrogation that we can find in the Quran. This is all from the books of tafsir. We have all kinds of different verses that apparently, according to hadith, are not in the Quran today, but they were revealed somehow. This is a massive just denial of the preservation and authenticity of the Quran. And they call this textual abrogation, or suqt, okay? So suqt, if I'm not mistaken, means like falling away. So they say that the verses on stoning adulterers and adult breastfeeding, astaghfirullah, that is actually was in the Quran at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, but the verses did not find their way into the actual compiled manuscript, conveniently enough. So they literally follow something that wasn't in the Quran. There's no evidence, but apparently was in the Quran. And they followed these laws in there, even though there's no proof it was ever in there. SubhanAllah, like, I could claim almost anything then. You can claim that, literally anything was in the Quran, and, something was just lost. And when you put this forward to a lot of like, apologists for sectarian Sunni Islam, Salafi Islam, they don't actually answer the question. They just say, well, no, it was preserved because the Quran was memorized. But that's not the question. The question is, why is it not there? Every verse revealed to be part of the Quran was meant to be in the final, complete revelation. Doesn't Allah say that He completed for you the deen way before any sects emerged officially, right? We also have variable readings. I have to go on with this at some point as well, because they kind of explain this away as dialects, right? But dialects are the same words, right? So if you come from the UK and you say, like tire for the word for a wheel on a car, and in America you say tire, right? That is the same word, but you're going to find that they have different words for the same exact position in the ayah of the Quran. And you can't have that. There has to be some way to reconcile that. That's why we're meant to be making salihat of the Qur'an of our reality. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Sulah, you're bringing things together, right? Reconciling the world around you. The Quran is actually not sufficient for guidance or salvation outside the context of following subjective criteria. Why do I say subjective? Because these scholars actually have difference of opinion regarding something so important as salah, right? Or something is so important as fasting, or how you do hajj. Like I know that there's small menial differences, but you're talking about pillars of Islam that if you do them differently, there has to be like, you're going to tell me that it's all figured out and there's still difference of opinion, and they're all valid. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So the worst one also is, for me, is, the Quran is actually not the final transmission. It's not the final revelation of God. It's actually the Quran and this hadith compilation. They're two separate wahi, right? If you're in the Shia school of thought, you would say it's the Ahl Bayt. But those are also narrations, right? They're just different narrations. So they can't even agree which ones to follow. So yeah. So this idea of using external sources to understand the Quran, I just want to shout out to Bird Songs 482. Basically, what we are meant to do in this life is, because this is an age of confusion, and this is an age of just complete, the masses being so lost, and having just no guidance. Everything is they're meant to attack you from every side, every angle. What can we do in this life to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understand that his book is the only guidance? I mean, it's complete. First of all, you need the guidance to be complete to use it, right? There is a verse in the Quran that suggests that Allah has sent down ayat within us and outside of us. And ayat are meant to be observed. They are self-evident proofs. So they require no explanation other than they are from Allah. And what you'll notice is that the people of the Pharaonic times, people of Pharaoh, they needed ayat because these people dismissed the idea of a creator, technically, right? Like, they were very much, they didn't really have gods in a sense. It was Pharaoh, he was their god, but their religion is very abstract, like it wasn't as concrete as, for example, a Samiri, very clear, this calf is your god, and we made it with our hands, right? People of Ibrahim, yes, these are our gods, these statues, whatever you want to call them. So ayat were sent down because the people that try to explain away things as not being miraculous, these people make kufr. They reject these signs, right? But Ibrahim, he was sent to a people that they knew there was a divine element to this world, but they just didn't actually believe in the correct God, right? The only one that could possibly explain our reality, Allah. So he used logic. He said, how can you worship what you create? How can you worship what is clearly not your creator, right? So I just want to, mention, like, everything around us, in mythology, in other religions, in science, in history, in your personal life, these are all part of the proofs that are meant to remind you about the Quran. Why? I mean, I showed in, for example, part 4 in the Mecca series that they put this in our media. They are inspired by this book in our media, because they know this is the best stories, this is the best concepts for mankind for all time. I would go so far as to say all of the books that we know and all the fairy tales, all of the scientific theories and concepts, they're all based on elements and kernels of truth that are inspired by this book. Even the Bible, I would argue, is inspired by the Quran. Some people would say the Quran copied the Bible, but there's no proof of that. We have no evidence that the Bible predates the Quran. It's not even mentioned as a book in the Quran. Yes, we have the Torah, we have the Injil, we have something called a Zabur. There's also hidden scriptures as well. But we have no concept of what those are. We don't have those copies with us. We don't have the Furqan of Musa. We don't have the Suhaf of Ibrahim, right? So I would suggest that, this is not an error with the Sunnis, because the Sunnis are using a different standard alongside or trumping the Quran to understand the Quran. This is something that is a grave mistake. But what we are doing is we are applying the Quran unilaterally, right, across the board. I'm going to show you, inshallah, on part 5 of Mecca, where we examine a lot of mythology, legends of the former peoples, which Allah tells you to examine these things, right? Because even in the Prophet's time, they call the Quran, the revelation, legends. So that means that he was sent to a people who were like atheists, right? He wasn't just, we believe he was sent to the worlds, the realms. Many people don't understand what that means. Like, this is beyond the context of Arabian geography today, right? So he was sent to all kinds of peoples, all kinds. He was sent to jinn. You understand, right? The jinn listened in. He was telling them of the Quran. Imagine how amazing that is. We believe in jinn. All Muslims believe in jinn unequivocally. So how can we deny all of these kind of fairy tales, right, that the Quran points to? The Quran points to people that are like giants. The Quran points to all kinds of wildlife and plant life that is just on a massive, amazing, miraculous scale. And this is all just legends. These are all just fables. This is all just for children. Funny enough, the children are the ones that have their fitrah intact, and they're not corrupted like a lot of us as we grow older. So they don't have a problem with these things, and that's why children are innocent, right? So I would suggest that, the resources we use to understand the Quran are always from the lens of what we can establish in the Quran, right? So when you look at other belief systems, right, to compare and contrast them, you are not going to conclude that they are correct when they say there's more than one deity or there's a trinity. That's something you can establish from the Quran today. Another reason is the Arabic language. The Arabic language, people speak it today. It's a living language. Different dialects, but everyone can understand this modern standard Arabic, which is practically indistinguishable from classical Arabic. Everyone watches Arabic news in the Middle East, from Morocco to Iraq, and they all understand this Fusha Arabic. It's just a formal way of speaking. So you can produce a practically completely intelligible story of the Quran. It's just that when you go to the translations, you're going to see that there's been some tampering and some hiding of what it says in Arabic. That's what they can't actually change the Arabic. That's the thing. Even if nobody memorized the Quran, that book would still be preserved. Every single marking in that mushaf would be preserved. That's the incredible thing about it. That's why they did this in this way, to make it look like just another religion. So I hope that answers your question, Birdsong. Yeah, so let me just go to the chat. Okay. I hope the sound is still good. Let me see. I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. This is a new one for me. Um, just wanna. It's hard sometimes to answer with comments, right? Like, like you know what I mean. Like you can only do so much. But let's see here. Where was that comment here? Quranische Islam. Gute Nacht. My German is not really good, so where is real Mecca? Okay. If you watch the series about Mecca, what you're going to find is pretty much everybody has had an idea of what Mecca is, what it represents, all of the attributes surrounding it. And I myself have had doubts about the Saudi Mecca, right? Understandably, right? Because there's just something that doesn't click right, you know? Excuse me. So when you think about it, the only time Mecca is mentioned in the Quran, it's associated with a word called batan. Batni Mekkatin, right? That's kind of strange, isn't it? Why would Allah, out of all the times he could have mentioned Mecca, he associates it with that word, which means belly? But I'm going to show you guys. Yeah, by name, exactly. Real Islam, by name. I'm talking about Mecca when it's mentioned by name. What was it again? I think in chapter 48. Here it is. Okay. So you guys can see my screen, I believe. وهو الذي كف أيديهم عنكم وأيديكم عنهم ببطن. Now this prefix B is usually used for a location, and for some reason or whatever, they just don't decide to translate this as belly or womb. That's exactly what it is, though. You just go to the correspondence, it's belly, it's womb. I hope you guys can see the deception taking place here, right? This is all wombs and bellies, except for this verse. And it just so happens to be about Mecca. So, from what I understand, the general story, there are elements of truth in all of these accounts. Hadith doesn't stop with, Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. Hadith is literally any report outside of the Quran. The Bible is hadith. The news is hadith. It just means reports, events, reports, all kinds of there's all kinds of words you can put in there. When people have a conversation, the haddatha, you're talking to somebody, right? That's really what it means. You're conveying information. The other one that's very interesting is Becca, right? So Becca, the only time it's mentioned as being delivered. Okay, wuda'. Wuda' is not set up. It's given birth, but not really given birth, because that would be walada. Allah does not give birth. Lam yulad wa lam yulad, right? Lam walad wa lam yulad. So this word is used for Miriam's mother when she says, "My Lord, I have delivered a female." And Miriam's mother is the wife of Imran, who is Musa's father in the Bible. I'm not saying the Bible is true, but you can infer so much from the Quran as a filter for. So to answer your question, if you watch the series, you will have to conclude that Mecca is basically has to be at the center of the earth. Why? It's the mother of cities. What does that imply? It means that it's the most ancient site, the most ancient city the first landmass. It's literally like what you would call in Arabic merkez. It's in the center of every. That's why when Allah says those around her, He literally means those around her. That is the most true way to show it, because what we have to keep in mind is that we cannot think of a better way to explain things than God. He's the one who made the Quran fussilat. What does that mean? That means exactly, that's a chapter of the Quran. Fussilat, explained in detail. So it's not a summary of these stories. And to answer your question, Quranisha Islam, Mecca is situated where the origins of mankind seem to be. And clearly that's not in Arabia. When you put so much pieces of evidence together, I would, if you haven't already, I would recommend you watch the first 3 parts at least, because the evidence is kind of foundational and builds on itself. But basically, in my journey personally, just if you're interested, I was just trying to see, like, where is this city? Yeah, Adnan Bosnian, that's correct. Yeah, the Quran is also hadith. It's God's speech. It's His communication. But this hadith is different. It's the best one. Allah says, for which hadith after this, the Quran, will you believe in? You know? So, yeah, basically, if you watch at least part 3, but I suggest you watch from the beginning, Quranisha Islam, that, you know, the Quran is saying that Mecca is at the center of time and space. Hence, it makes sense, you know, we made you a middle nation. We made you a central nation. All of the scholars seem to point to the fact that, I mean, I'm not taking their word as, you know, truth, but I'm saying that for people that believe in these scholars, some of the most preeminent ones were saying things like, yeah, Mecca is the center. Mecca actually means Mecca, like something in the center of a bone, like the marrow of a bone, right? You also have reciters of one of the 7 qira'at. Was it qira'at huruf? He was a reciter of the qira'at, al-Kisai, from Persia, one of the teachers of the Abbasids at the time of Harun al-Rashid, if I'm not mistaken. The details are not as important. It's like he believed it was under the North Star, the Kaaba. Okay. All of the compasses point there. We literally have people lining up to kiss a black stone, which everyone can tell you is meteorites, right? Magnetic iron from the heavens. Exactly where Allah says iron comes from. It descends from the heavens, black. And it just so happens that there seems to be some location where all of them point to some giant mountain of this stuff, what they call Rupus Nigra. So, yeah, I don't do it justice, obviously, to explain where it is, but basically there's a spot on the earth that is not on our maps for good reason, and we're not allowed to go there because Allah is telling us that this place just has an effect on the rest of the worlds. There's so much stuff that's there. It makes sense. I mean, you know, like even the Northern Lights, when you look at that, I mean, what do you think that is? You know, what do you think the Northern Lights are? Because we agree that Allah created everything, right? There has to be an explanation, brother. That's what this investigation is about. Is, you know, using the Quran and applying it to reality. It's your guidance. It's your compass. It's your standard, right? Al-Furqan. It's your criterion for the world. Yeah, I had doubts where it was, you know, like, well, Istanbul sounds pretty good. Didn't really fit everything, you know. There's a place in Russia that they say is Mecca. People tell me that Yemen is where Mecca is. Some people say it's Jerusalem. And they all have so many problems associated with it. I mean, for example, if you go to chapter 21, right? I'm just going to bring this up and then move on. 2196. 2195. Okay. This is actually what got me interested in this topic, because I noticed that, you know, if we disagree, if we have a lack of confidence, a lot of confidence that it's in Saudi Arabia, then it has to be somewhere, right? So it says here, but they cut off their affair among themselves. Oh, no, it's 95. Let me go to 95. وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى قَرْيَةٍ. There is some kind of a sanction upon a city. We have destroyed أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. Okay. Where is this city? And Allah tells you that basically until when has been conquered, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, they from every elevation descend. This is another interpolation, but my point is that there's a haram on the city. We don't have any city we know of like that, where there's a haram on it. Okay. Just keep this in mind as well. And it's related to Gog and Magog, exactly like the story of the Qarnayn, which we'll have to talk about at some other point. Yeah, I wonder if we'll see the true Mecca during our lifetime. You know, that's something that I think is in Allah's hands. Like, if you think about it, we wouldn't be talking about this at this time, you know, in this age of just massive ignorance and arrogance, if there wasn't something to what you're saying, Anis. Anything outside the Quran cannot be religious law, cannot be the system of Allah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just makes sense, right? Look, Allah is very broad in certain areas and very specific in other areas. So the areas where He's broad, doesn't that tell you there's room for us to kind of be comfortable, right? Because everyone's different. Why would we all follow this conformity in Islam? Whether you're a man or a woman or a child, that means that He's showing you there is room for people's various, you know, interests, various approaches to life, from diverse walks of life and cultures, to all agree upon the premises, right? The basic limits. Allah is very merciful. He's not going to impose harshness. In one of the ayahs I read at the beginning, it says, we've not posed any difficulty in this deen, right? So it accommodates everybody, includes everybody. It's not to a specific group of people. You don't have to be an angel to be a good Muslim. You just have to follow these limits. It's all through consensus, agree to get along, not based on truth. Anyone who disagrees with anyone, they start crying, unfortunately. It's not how science works. Yeah, exactly. Benjamin, 786, right? Peace, Kenneth Blaine. Peace, Hot Spring. Shout out to Koranutics. Salamun. Untold Stories, is Dajjal and Mahdi real? So, Dajjal and Mahdi, if you want to watch a good video, I suggest you go to, let me just find it here. One sec. So, the channel is called Endgame Islam, and the video is called Two Messiahs, Two Dajjals. Okay, first one that comes up here, right? If you go to this video, okay, this is where me and Endgame Islam, we just talk all about the end times, all about Dajjal, all about Mahdi. Of course, what I want to preface that is that Dajjal is nowhere in the Quran. The root of Dajjal is not in the Quran. And Mahdi, as Amira said very wisely, Mahdi means cradle in the Quran. Just so people are aware, let me show you the difference, okay? So this is Mahdi. The first thing that comes up anytime you see Mahdi is Mahdi, al-Mahdi. Okay? This is not in the Quran. The Quran has a different word for this. It's very, very subtle, but it's a significant difference, okay? Do you see the ya missing here, right? There's no ya at the end. Al-Mahdi, Mahdi. But here, Al-Mahdi, okay? So this word right here, Al-Mahdi, they say means guided, so obviously it would relate to the root for Huda, right? So this would be a different root to the cradle, right? This is this root, Mahd, Mahda. Some kind of a place of rest, something that's spread out, that, you know, for a baby, or here we say is a bed, right? So I think that they put the word cradle in there because it talks about Isa, right? So they just assume because he's a baby that this special Mahd, right? Mahd is just a cradle, any ordinary cradle for a baby. But that's not true. This is a very important story. Allah is not going to say Al-Mahd when it's just an ordinary cradle. But anyway, that's besides the point. I just want to show you that Mahdi is a different root, and the way you can find it here, just to show you, you know, how Arabic works, right? Search the word guidance, and obviously guidance is Huda, right? Everyone understands Huda, bil Huda. So when you go to people that are guided ones, they're called muhtadeen, muhtadi. You see, al-muhtadi, not al-mahdi. You see what they did here? They have faked this word and this meaning. And I can tell you because Arabic is very specific. When you have ma in front of a word, that means it's a place. Like mat'am, mat'am, that's a restaurant, place of food. Makhbaz, place of bread, a bakery, right? Masmaka, place of fish, a fishmonger, fish store. So really what this ends up happening here is this is something to do with this Mahdi in the Quran, but it's nothing to do with guidance. If it is to do with guidance, then fine. I don't have a problem with that, except Allah already gave you a definition of what the guided one is supposed to look like. Wal muqtadi. Okay? So they're just playing games. And for example, about Dajjal, right? There's a word in the Quran called ghurur. Let me find it for you here. It's right here. Ghurra. Gharrahum gharrannaka. Who deceived them? Who is the deceiver? Every Muslim scholar will tell you the deceiver is ash-shaytan ar-rajim, not Dajjal. They could have easily put Dajjal here as the big deceiver at the end. No, but it's shaitan. Everyone will agree it's shaitan. So the question is, why would we have to accept Dajjal and Mahdi? I don't have a problem with the concept of there's an al-Masih, there is a deceiver, because they say Dajjal means like a, you know, a juggler or like a deceiver, deluder, okay? But, and Mahdi even if Mahdi means guided one, which is a bit, you know, hard to accept, what is the angle here? What is the angle? What you'll notice is a description. Here, let me pull up the video here because it has the slide. The description of the Mahdi, the Dajjal, the Masih. They're pulling a fast one on us, okay? They are making a fake apocalypse before our very eyes. Let me show you what I mean. So Judaism has two messiahs, okay? Mashiach ben Joseph, Mashiach ben David. And I'll just cut to the chase. Spoiler alert. This is what it is. And you can prove me wrong if you want. I'm more than happy to accept being wrong here. But this is their plan here, okay? The Masih ad-Dajjal in Islam is the Mashiach ben David of Judaism. It's the Jesus Christ, Son of God, the Redeemer of Christianity. Okay? And obviously Masih ad-Dajjal of Islam. These three people are the same person. They've just split them across the three Abrahamic religions. And they just want to fool you. So basically, you're going to support one side over the other. And one side is going to have all the opposite traits. Okay? So this Savior, Mashiach, Messiah, is put forward by Shaitan. He's going to deceive these Christian peoples, right? Because the Dajjal for Muslims is Jesus Christ, the Son of God, for Christians. And I show facts in the video why that's the case. This Masih ad-Dajjal, okay, there's two Dajjals. That's what I'm getting at. This is the Mahdi for Muslims. Why? He has the same traits as Mashiach ben Yusuf of Judaism, and he has the same traits of what Christians will call the Antichrist. They say the Antichrist is supported by a false prophet, that he'll have armies from Arabia and Russia and all this, right? But in Islam, he's the Khalif, he's the Imam Mahdi, okay? So this is not an accident. They set it up this way. And if you believe in these concepts, you're more susceptible to being deceived at the very end. And that's why, you know, is it here, I think? That's why they call, you know, they call the World War III, the apocalyptic, you know, conflict at the very end in Hadith, they call it Malhama al-Kubra, the great butchering. Lahmi is meat, you see? So, yeah, I mean, you have to be very detached from the Quran to follow this blindly, right? So I recommend watching that video. They are not deceivers, dunya, shaitan, iblis. Yeah, obviously. I mean, why wouldn't it be iblis? Allah identifies iblis as the gharur. Hudan al-muttaqin. So what are the occultists following as in eschatology? Is that all fake? No, basically, untold stories. What the occultists have done is they have taken the truth, the real truth of the Quran, and they have just coded it. They've made it encrypted. Why? Because they hide things in plain sight, and they want to be able to access this information anywhere they go. So, you know, you go into Wikipedia, you know, and you type in Kaaba, right? Kaaba al-Musharrafa. So this is encoded. What you're looking at is an encrypted truth in plain sight. Kaaba was rebuilt several times in history. Clearly, it's not the right one, right? You know what I mean? Like basically, they're gonna point to it. They're gonna put information in this, in Wikipedia and everything, and they're just waiting for people to like ignore it. That's it. I feel that there is true eschatology from the Quran, and it's very different to what you see in Hadith or the Bible or Jewish eschatology. The reason why is because the hour comes suddenly in the Quran, and that's it. That's the end of the test. When the hour comes, there's no bickering, there's no fighting, squandering. It's over. Now Allah's imposed on us the day, Yawm al-Qiyamah. Okay? And the earth and the heavens and everything starts to transform to the eternalized confirmation, known as the Akhirah, hereafter. So yeah, I mean, what better way to pervert the fitrah of believers in the Quran, Muslims, Christians, people that are drawn to monotheism, right? Than to have a fake hastening of the hour, when really, I mean, it's very possible that there could be something coming for us that they're trying to subvert. You know, like Allah brings forth people. He brings forth, um, you know, protectors and helpers for us in this life because He has mercy on us. Does that mean Mahdi and Dajjal and all these things are exactly how it's going to happen? No, but clearly they take inspiration from something real, right? Um, we'll have to get that that at a later point. Okay, I you cannot say that everything is fake um, from these stories, from these hadith, right? They clearly, it's like in the Quran, it says, "Do not dress the truth in falsehood." So that means you just have to peel the layers of falsehood to figure out what the truth is behind it. It's never 100% false, but the Quran is unique because that's 100% truth in so many intricate ways. And we can debate this at the end so much at the end of the day, but you know, if you believe in the Quran 100%, just study it, you know. Look at where certain words are used, how they're used, how many times they're used, what root is used in the Quran, right? Okay. Hope that answers your question. I just learned on Brother Munib's stream yesterday that the verse saying, take the golden calf in their hearts, doesn't even say golden calf. The word used had to do with haste. Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. Let me just bring that up. This is something I want to look at, inshallah, eventually. So the word calf, if we go to it, right? This is what you should definitely do, right? So one thing that I want to make sure people understand is Arabic is so accurate. Arabic is very precise. There's no synonyms in Arabic. There's no homonyms in Arabic. So that means every single word has its unique place, its unique dharma in the language. Okay? And they're all based on this root system. Okay? So, you know, something, if you watch this one, let me just show you this video. I really recommend you watch this video on language. Okay? So this video, letter correspondence, okay? So when you look at this, what you're gonna see is the Arabic root, okay, has I didn't even get into this point, but basically there's knowledge in the letters themselves. There's knowledge in the organization of letters themselves, okay? This is just showing relationships between words that are paired, letters that are paired together, like spouses, okay? Zain wa dha, dal wa dad, ha wa gha, ba wa ma. That's why Becca and Mecca are related, right? They cannot be the same thing. They are related. They're partners, right? Everything is created in pairs in this life. And the whole creation is a pair. Isn't that amazing? So when you go to ajala, just move this jim in front of the ain, and what do you get? Ja'ala, creation, created, making something, placing, making, setting something. Like the same can be true of kafara and fakra. So thinking and kufr. Blasphemy and thinking are at odds. They're just distortions of each other. Shirk and shakr, right? Shakr means gratitude. Shirk means incorporating others with Allah. They're distortions of each other, mutations of this code. The Arabic is like a heavenly language. Like it just defies humans coming up with this. Okay, the angels speak it, the jinn speak it, the messengers speak it, the enemies of Allah in the Quran speak this language. That's why this dialogue in the Quran reveals that this language is just the standard way people used to talk before they started making all these different ajami, right? That's another good one. So jama'a means togetherness, ensemble. And when you distort that, when we became scattered from our homeland, we started speaking ajami languages, like the one I'm talking to you right now. Okay. So when you go to ijl, okay, whether this word means calf or not, we can investigate that further, and I'd like to do a whole thing on this, inshallah. But this is the word for haste, ajalin, official, right? Officially. So Brother Manib is absolutely correct. This word calf is related to something to do with haste. Not sure exactly why the word in Arabic calf would be related to that. Maybe because these animals, when they are born, they quickly learn how to walk, run, fend for themselves, just like other forms of cattle. It's amazing. They're just born and they on their feet and they're running and they're eating and anyway. Um, but yeah, there is something to do with this culture and haste, right? Because it's from this root, the immediate. Have you noticed that this word immediate? It's almost like these people are very concerned with the present. They're heedless of the future, heedless of the past. Okay, they're mushrikeen. They're people that have created associations with God that don't exist. They worship something they created with their hands. And obviously, it's a little bit more sophisticated than just some random statue. Like you're talking about something that convinced people that this is God. Okay, the people in the in the past, they were more sophisticated than us. Even though they were just as lost, they were more sophisticated with technology, with scientific understandings and whatnot. Rocky Balboa 100. Shout out to Rocky Balboa. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Should we still strive to memorize the whole Quran word by word? This is a very good question. Sound like Zakir Naik. The brother asked a very good question. No, basically, I think when you're talking about memorizing the Quran, let's just look at that word, right? Memorize. So, if I'm not mistaken, it's used a couple times. Is it in here? Let me see. Let me just search the root here. I know it's hefeld, right? So if you go to the word for memorize, let me see here. Bear with me. Okay. We have protected the Quran, guarding. Let me see if it's here. Nope, it's not here. So the word used for memorizing is hafidh, right? That's how you call someone who's memorized the entire Quran. They're called a hafidh. Funny enough, this has nothing to do with memorizing. You see? It has to do with protecting and guarding, keeping safe. Keep the Quran safe. But how do you do that? Well, you can see all kinds of people that have memorized the Quran, okay? So let's see, Hafidh, Quran. Okay, you can find all kinds of people, and they will. I heard a very good saying by Hussein al-Khalil. You should really find that channel. He said, these people with these hoods here, they will applaud you as the greatest celebrity if you memorize the whole Quran. They will laud you and praise you. But the second you start to read the Quran and gain knowledge from it and understand it, they will go after you with pitchforks. Why? Because when you memorize the Quran, 99% of the time, there is no meaning imparted from that act. And this is said in all honesty because I applaud people that memorize the Quran. I think it's good to do. I think there are so many verses that apply in our personal lives that help us, especially if you want, if you pray or if you do any kind of act, just to remind yourself without the physical copy, And if you don't understand what that means, basically, like, there's a small amount of benefit there for you, for your soul, for your heart. But let's say you memorize a verse and you've studied this verse, this ayah, and you understand, like, really meditate on this ayah, what it means, and you recite it. Doesn't that have more of an impact than just going on and on and on and on and on and on? Obviously, Allah doesn't need people to memorize the Quran for it to be protected. It just so happens that people did, simply because they understood how important this book is. And so, really, what we should be doing, brothers and sisters, is protecting the meaning of the Quran. Remember the story, dhikr. I think that should accompany any memorization effort. You memorize one surah, really study what that means. And everyone has this capacity, but obviously, that is so important, right? Oh, thank you, Cornutix. I didn't even realize. That should totally forgot. Okay. Set it up to live chat. That's good. Let's see here. Most Muslims nowadays are of the Nasara. They lack logical thinking skills. Yeah, Kenneth Blaine, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, if you go to my videos on Nasara, that will really expose why that cannot just mean Christians. Obviously, Christians can fit the category of Yahud, Nasara, so many different categories. But at the end of the day, Allah is not just going to put a cap of that term on Christians. Okay. Let's see, where are we here? Hamza Islam. What do you think of Dr. Hani? Dr. Hani, interesting you asked that, because people have associated with me with Dr. Hani, and I barely heard of the guy at the time. But if you go to Dr. Hani Atchan's channel, okay, his channel is Marvelous Qur'an, in case people are not aware. I have major disagreements with Dr. Hani. Obviously, he's entitled to do whatever he wants. He's within his capacity and his right to understand the Quran how he understands it. Okay. But that being said, there's a lot of things in there that just cannot fit the paradigm. I only know of a few examples. Like, for example, like, apparently the flood is not a real flood. It's a flood of confusion. Okay. Dr. Hani, from what I understand, has something that's not Arabic that is the language of the Quran. It's like the Abrahamic locution. Okay. Like, I don't have anything against the guy. There's so many people that use the Quran and understand, like, what it means. But you'll notice that, oh yeah, another one, he says Musa is Jibril. Okay, which obviously is very hard to believe that. He says that Ibrahim's son in that story of the sacrifice is actually Muhammad. Okay. I strongly don't agree with that. Okay, because I can find evidence from the Quran to suggest so much that that is just at odds with that. So yeah, I can't really comment much. I haven't watched many of his videos, but there are certain just red flags, right? Red flags. I have to pause, Yeah, like Dr. Hani doesn't touch any of the cosmology, right? I've seen him, make comments on the Endgame Islam channel that they're just like lost and misguided because they're trying to understand how the earth is, right? How the earth and the heaven system works. What's wrong with that? Why are you why are you going against people that are striving in the Quran as well, right? We should be all on the same team, in a sense. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Hot spring, exactly. You should try to understand the Quran as much as you memorize it, right? I'll tell you what, personal story, I used to do all the 5 daily prayers. That's not an accomplishment, by the way. That's just something we're led to believe, right? You should do all the 5 daily prayers. I used to memorize Quran. Like I go on the bus and I just like, okay, next surah, I'm gonna memorize this, and I would, in the beginning, I wouldn't even understand what it means, right? I converted to Islam 7 years ago, okay, and since that time, it's just been this like, teeter tottering on, okay, what's Hadith say, what does the Quran say? Very much difficulty, right? So I got to a point where I memorized a lot. For me, like I don't speak Arabic at this time. I don't, um, just had no like family or community technically to help me with that. But I just like the idea, and people would praise you. It becomes narcissistic. You know what I mean? Um, but what's funny is like when you think about it, what do you gain from that? Is the Quran just a book of prayer? Of course not. Of course not. It's not a book of prayer. So what it boils down to is people memorize the short surahs, right? Because they're easier. And then they use those surahs because they have to use them in the fard rak'ahs of prayer, of salah. And then they don't even read the longer surahs. They don't even look at the stories. It's all figured out for them with tafsir. So the Quran is literally reduced to a book of recitations for prayer. Isn't that just a travesty? And so I stopped that. I stopped these rituals because I noticed that it's against what the Quran is saying, in all honesty, right? So yeah. Gurney-Tix, maybe Rocky. We don't know when the colluders of the jinn devils will employ the internet shutdown. Got to memorize and understand deeply. Of course. Everybody has like the capacity to understand something significant, right, from the Quran. And I think the more that we collaborate, the more that we share notes, point each other in the right direction, this is how the ummah is going to form, right? There's clearly an ummah at the end. So, inshallah, that we become part of this ummah. The Quran is easy to memorize if you... the Quran is easy to memorize if you have the time. It is like a song, but we aren't instructed to memorize it in the Quran. Yeah, so the Quran is supposed to benefit you. The sounds created, the vibrations created from the recitation, 100% have a benefit on people that believe in it, that acknowledge this to be the word of God. But imagine if you understand what that means, if you can visualize what these sounds, the Quran is sounds, right? If you can write those, if you can read it for yourself from the Arabic, there's a power in that. Like Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. What does that mean? What does that mean? Alhamd for Allah. Rabb, the Rabb of the worlds. Like we don't we are so accustomed because of the hadith culture to make the Quran minuscule in its profoundness. Okay. Salam from Germany. The Sunni religion would still remain even without the Quran. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Quran is an afterthought, right? It's just for prayer, basically. All the rulings are from hadith, all the rituals from hadith, all the holidays from hadith, all the guidance from hadith. Some scholars, you'd be surprised, new path, no return. You'll be surprised they'll actually say, some of the scholars allegedly in the past, the hadith, the sunnah rules over the Quran. Can you imagine? This is what they claim. Can explain the Quran equals hadith, the hadith books today, any narrations, hadith. Yeah, absolutely. Hot Spring. I feel like the Quran is the most distorted book of all times. Lots of studies. Yeah, absolutely. Hot Spring. I have to agree with that because what you're going to find is when you do a one-to-one ratio, one-to-one, concordance, Arabic to English, you're not going to see the translation be loyal to the Arabic. 9 times out of 10. Okay, Quranisha Islam. Oh, of course, the big question, right? The big mystery. Comment on your understanding of Salah, please. Okay. This is going to be a really controversial video or series of videos. And I have to thank all of the people on these media platforms that I engage with, that help me confirm things for myself. Like, hey, what do you think about this? Okay. And, I always, 9 times out of 10, I get like very positive feedback from people like yourselves. Salah, let's just jump into it. Hey? Let's just look into it. Okay. So if you can see my screen, number 1 is the claim that Salah is prayer. Okay. And it's just obvious, right? So there's no redundancy in the Quran. There's no ambiguity in the Quran. So when I type in prayer, I get this. Dua. Okay. What does it mean to perform dua? Well, they say supplication. Do you know what that word means, supplication? Action of asking or begging for something earnestly or humbly. Okay. Prayer. Invoking. Do you see? Beseeching. Who are you doing that for? You're doing that for Allah. Okay. Dua clearly fits the bill for what everyone considers prayer in this life. I mean, obviously, it's not obviously, I wouldn't restrict it to prayer, but they translate it as prayer throughout the Quran. Du'a'akum, your prayer. Da'wahum, even da'wah, they say is prayer, their prayer. Invocation of God, okay? Come to God. Oh Allah, Allahumma. You see, it's like, that's prayer. That's what prayer is, okay? So let's go back to Salah. As-salati. I have no problem with people praying. None whatsoever. Every religion does it. Everyone does it at some point in their life. They call to God. I've done it. Everyone that wants to receive guidance at a moment in their life, they call to God. An atheist calls to God. There's no atheist in a war. Okay? They call for their creator to help them. This is the number 1 point of contention. This right here, it cannot be both. Why? Because it's one word, and when you think about it, Allah is not going to prey upon one. That would be a different word, wouldn't it? That would be something else. So what they do is they just interpolate a different definition and bless. Allah blesses. Allah sends His blessings. Where'd they get that from? Huwa alladhi yusalli alaykum. I know this is a tired argument, and the likes of Muhammad Hijab will say something on the lines of, David Wood, you don't understand. It's salli ala an-nabi. It doesn't make a difference if Allah prays to the Prophet or Allah prays upon the Prophet. The fact is, Allah prays. Astaghfirullah. He is the object. He is the, I should say, He's what prayer is directed to. He's not going to be doing this action unless the word means something else. So that's number one. Number two, okay, this one here, salawatun. Now notice, this is just the plural of salat, because it says here, alayhum salawatun min rabbihim wa rahmatun. Salawatun from your Lord. Allah knows everything about reality. He's beyond time and space. He's transcendent about these worldly matters. Of course, I believe Allah sends blessings, He sends mercy, He sends guidance, He sends light. But blessings is barakat. Barakat, blessings. Barakna. Hawlaha. We bless the surroundings of Masjid al-Aqsa. Okay? There's already a word for blessings. They just don't know what to put there. Let me give you another one. And this one, Sam Gerrans, to his credit, has also understood that there's a problem here as well. So it's in Surat al-Hajj. Synagogues? You're going to tell me salawatun are synagogues? So that's the plural of as-salah, right? As-salah means the salah, singular. Then as-salawat or salawat is synagogues. How? That would mean as-salah means synagogue, wouldn't it? Let's look at this verse. I hope you're with me on this, because this is a bit, nobody really talks about these things, very few people. Those who have been evicted from their homes without right, except that they said, our Lord is Allah. So you can see why they were evicted, okay? If not, Allah checks mankind, some of them by others, lehuddimat, surely He would have demolished. Now, I'm not taking this, I'm not taking this translation as authoritative. I'm just showing you, plainly simple, that it doesn't make sense. Surely would have demolished monasteries, churches, salawat, masajid. Okay. If you want to decode this, you know that masajid is a place. Places, right? Like sajada has to do with sujood, okay? And masjid has to do with a place of sujood, place of sajada, a place of revering God, respecting God, so forth. So in the plain text, you're talking about locations, right? This is not the word for church in Arabic. And you can see where it's used in the Quran, this root, it has to do with trade. And so Sam Gerrans, he has translated this as places of trade, commerce. The word in Arabic for synagogue and for church is the same word. You know what that is? That word is knisa. It means assembly. Al-kanisat, gathering place, assembly. This is what the Israeli government is called. Okay? This is what you call a church in Arabic, knisa. So when you go to, Salah, they have inserted synagogues in there. And as I mentioned in part 3 of the Mecca series, first time we get this idea is with Zakaria. The Malaika, and what was he doing? He was qa'imun, yusalli in the mihrab. Nobody on earth today prays in the mihrab. Nobody. They pray in the masjid towards the mihrab. So why did Allah phrase it like this? Clearly something else is going on. And I already mentioned this has to do with something even in the Bible that's the Holy of Holies. I'm going to make a video for part 5, inshallah, that the Hindus have the same thing. And funny enough, that chamber is called the womb chamber in Hinduism. Anyway. I don't know how much I want to reveal regarding Salah. I guess, what's your understanding? My understanding is evolving on Salat, okay? This is not a complete investigation. I just want to point out that there are issues with the standard explanation. They're just issues with it. That being said, if I type in this word salat, okay, if you can look at my screen, this is what we see. You see people standing, bowing, prostrating, okay? This tradition came from somewhere. Now, what was the original format of this tradition? Allah knows best. But I feel that there is something about this, okay, that in its original form would prevent munkar, would prevent evil, wrongdoing, fahisha and munkar. It would increase your faith. It would open your heart. There is something about the world that was so different in the time of the Quran. And we are basically in some kind of a absence era. Just like when Musa was absent from his people, they built the calf. Okay? Suleiman was absent from his people. They put an imposter on his seat, his kursi, right? They followed devils, right? Give me one sec, guys. I'm just going to make a quick break, and I'll get back to this. Yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, one sec. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. I just need to use a quick break. How long have we been streaming here? Almost 2 hours. Okay. Okay. So, Salah. I really have to keep my discussion short. I'm kind of losing the comments here. But okay, so Salah. Let me just point you guys in something I find really compelling. Okay, so when you talk about Salat, right? Oh, before I get to that, let's look at where Salat is used. Let's just look at it here, okay? So they say the prayer. Okay, let me see. There's a verse in here. There is a verse, chapter 4, I think. Here it is. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أتقربوا الصلاة. Do you know what this means? This means the salah is not necessarily just a bunch of movements. Why? Because you approach the salah. That you understand, you can't approach yourself doing prayer movements, right? Islamic yoga. You can't approach yourself doing that. You have to be going towards that direction. Okay. Where was it? There was another one. I think it's in chapter 5. Ah, yeah, this is a good one too. O you who have believed. إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة. Now, this is something, if you guys don't think there's a conspiracy for the translation, it's right on the screen. When you arise toward the salah. This word ila means toward. Toward. But they have put it as for. We already know for is li salah. Why did they do it that way? Maybe they're trying to hide that as-salah is something way, way more significant than just prayer movements. Okay? So let's continue on. فَاغْسِلُوا وَجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ. No problem with this. You wash your faces and you wash your hands. Simple, right? I'm just going with what the Arab says. Toward the marafiq. If you haven't realized, Allah could have easily said marafiqakum, your elbows. And look, he could have said until, which is hatta, but he said towards. Just like he said towards here and not for. Do you understand what's going on? There's a totally different picture emerging. And this is one of the things that, raised my eyebrows. Why do they put it as the elbows only? And yeah, marafiq could very well mean elbows. But you have to think about it. Is this your elbows? This is your faces and your hands toward the elbows of what? This can only apply to the cosmology of the earth. You're going to find that there's so many references in the Quran to some kind of a living, anatomically analogous earth to us. Allah tells us, are you a better creation or the heavens? Right? We created you from the art. Art speaks to Allah. Come willingly or not, we come willingly. So what you're going to find is this concept of terrestrial anatomy. Very, very interesting stuff. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. This is the kicker. Okay? So he says, wipe your, and this is the same for masih, right? Same root for masih, imsahu. By your heads and your feet toward the ka'abain. Funny enough, this is two ankles, okay? Or two heels, but usually people say ankles, right? And funny enough, ka'aba, al-ka'abati, and al-ka'bata is used exactly twice. Just want to make sure you understand. وَكَوَاعِب doesn't mean splendid companions, okay? These are not your ankles. I know in Arabic today they talk like this. It's a poetic way of talking. But there is no poetry in the Quran. There is something to suggest as-salah is like, how do I put this? It's not a metaphysical thing only. It's something very physical, tangible, and we're just starting to understand what it means. That's why it's mentioned so many times. I mean, if you want to say it's duty, fine. But what is the duty? The duty of al-fajr, the duty of al-ishi, the middle duty. What is it, right? Allah put a definite article there. So it's a specific salah, as-salah, that the believers are going to perform eventually. These are just some things to meditate on, reflect on, okay? Another thing I want to show you is Prophet Muhammad, I'm sure most people understand, they have depicted some way, the Prophet Muhammad. And you guys are going to find this interesting, I think. Okay, so this is actually very interesting. So when you look at this picture, this is the Prophet Muhammad leads earlier prophets and angels in prayer, salah, in Masjid al-Aqsa during his night journey. Let me ask you, what do you see on the screen there? So you see, obviously, the Prophet Muhammad, he has a veil on his face. He's dressed in green. Other prophets are dressed in green as well. You have the angels there. They have turbans. They have the green qalansuwa in the turban. They're standing on some kind of a, beautiful carpets. They're in Masjid al-Aqsa, like a mosque. Why do all the humans have flames around them? The biggest, of course, being Prophet Muhammad's flame on his head. This is something that we don't really understand that well, but basically your heart produces an electromagnetic field, okay? And this field makes the same shape as the cosmos of the universe, okay? It comes out of your head, right? It comes through your spine, up and around, and almost like a halo is created. That's how Christians depict this phenomenon, as halos around their saints, their prophets, right? So it's anyone's guess what salah is. I'm just trying to picture it myself. Prayer may be one aspect that people attain something. Maybe prayer is definitely included in salah, no question. Is it the only way salah is performed? I really doubt it. I really doubt it. Brother Igor, okay, that one I did. Let's see. Assalamu alaikum. Alaikum assalam. What are your thoughts on Anatoly Fomenko? Have you looked into Muhammad Shahrur's analysis of the Quran? Thank you. Good question. So Anatoly Fomenko, if you're not aware, viewers, that he is a Russian mathematician from Moscow State University. And he was the first guy, at least in modern times, right, to suggest the timeline of our history is fabricated, okay? So, obviously, he's seen as a quack in the West, right? But what it did show is there is something to history that is deeply wrong. One of the main things is that entire dynasties, entire empires, entire civilizations are just copied from each other. Okay, so for example, let me just give you an example of that. He's also an artist too. He does this kind of abstract art as well. Yeah, here's an example. So this is part of his new chronology. Okay. So here you have the Roman Empire and their reigns and their kings. And on the other side, you have a empire of the kingdom of Judah, right? And what you notice here is that they're identical. They're practically identical, right? Their reigns, their, how the succession of them, right? They're not perfect, but they're very close. And this is too close to be a coincidence, right? So when you look at it, let me just show you something. There is artifacts. There are artifacts as well to show, what they call the phantom time hypothesis. 1,000 years added I. It's right here, okay? Just look for yourself. Find these like little pieces, maybe paintings, coins, or whatever. What they have here is the year, like 700, and they'll have a letter. They won't have the 1. They will never have a number 1, the older it is. Okay, so what this means is I usually relates to the birth of Jesus Christ, and then the year since he was born. That's 700 years. They tell us Jesus was born 2,000 years ago. So later what happened is that I became a substitute for one. And they just added 1,000 years to the calendar. This is a very good example. So I don't know if you can see my screen. This is in Italy. Where is this photo? Naples. This is a gallery in Naples, Napoli. Maybe somebody doctored this photo. I don't know. Investigate for yourselves. Don't take my word for it. But there's no M there to suggest 1,000 years. It just says this, and then later they add the M. Okay. What else? Yeah, Anatoly Fomenko. I mean, there's many things you can take that make sense from him. Like, for example, he says that time is a lot more recent than what we're told. Things are not as ancient. And so this is very significant for us as Muslims, because that means that Muhammad is a lot closer in time to us than what we're told, right? Which is amazing, right? We're told that he's 1,400 years. Like, that's a huge amount of time, okay? In the Quran, we have an idea that a day to your Lord is like 1,000 years. There are people in the Quran that want to live 1,000 years. Okay, so this is a significant amount of time from the Quranic text that we have to reflect and find signs. Okay. Where I diverge from Fomenko's hypothesis is if you go to his website, Chronologia. It's called How It Was in Reality, Fomenko. His book is there, right? Like many of his writings are there. You can look at what he thinks about all of history, okay? Anatoly Fomenko has basically concluded that all of history is Russian history. Maybe that's, maybe that's an oversimplification, okay? But how are you supposed to read his books translated to English from Russian and not conclude that? You can look on Reddit, and people have the same experience as I did when I read his books, okay? I don't doubt that the ancient mythologies, they are intertwined with medieval history, with the Quranic stories. But at the end of the day, what Anatoly Fomenko disregards is the Quran is the word of God. This cannot be understated. That means everything outside of the Quranic account is encompassed by, because that's the nature of God's word. The Bible is not like that. The Bhagavad Gita is not like that. There's no book like that. There's no source material like that. And basically, he puts all of the biblical Quranic events in Russia. Jesus Christ is born in Crimea, okay? And basically, Suleiman is, I mean, it complicates things. It complicates things, and when you look at it, as eventually what you're going to realize is this is not just some random research project that gained some success online. This is something coming from a nexus of power in the vicinity of Russia today. Tartaria, that whole concept, the Russia horde concept, the concept of, oh, we're fighting the Vatican, we're against, the West, and they're the evil guys that fabricated everything. Okay, fine, I agree that that's the case. But let's be honest. Do you think that Russia is fighting the New World Order? Do you think China is fighting the New World Order? Do you think Iran is fighting the New World Order? What we see is there are people online that are like they're putting this alternative narrative, and they never tell you that they're working towards replacing the Western narrative with this one. There's a West versus East, and we're just caught in the middle of it. Okay. And yeah, I don't have a problem with you know, the concept that history has been altered. I don't have a problem with it. But these people don't believe in, like, they don't believe that the Quran is from God. They just can't. These people are secular, and a good example of that is the story of Noah is basically mythology, and it's just the story of Columbus. It's just the story of Yermak, some general of Ivan the Terrible that conquered Alaska in America for the Russians. The Ottomans are the Turks, and the Turks are the Muslims. And so Muhammad is basically Mehmed the Conqueror. Is it really that simplistic? You know, like everything boils down to Russian history. Everything happened in Russia. The Kaaba, you know, I'll tell you right now, guys, if you want to know where these people are going to move Mecca, there's a place called Bilyarsk in Russia. Biler. Okay, Bilyarsk, Bilyar. Oh, it's not this. Let me find this. And this is where they say this is like the house of God. Some people online, they will tell you this is what Mecca is for these people, okay? I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying, like, they put the Prophet Muhammad's civilization in Kazan, okay? Let me see if I can find that for you. This is the one. And funny enough, if you find pictures of this, like, I'll just go to the website. It's all in Russian, I think. Yeah, translate to English. They have set up the whole thing. This region of Russia has an extensive Islamic history, and there are black stones there as well. There are also trees that you can put garlands around. This is a site, they say, in the Middle Ages was the biggest cities of the Middle Ages, the mother of cities, the great city, all around the world, bigger than Paris and London, okay? And it was just razed to the ground by the Mongols. And basically, all the religions, the pagans, the shamans, the Christians, the Jews, the Muslims, they all made pilgrimage to here. They have a holy spring. They have concept of dragons and stuff there, right? Zamzam. So you're going to tell me this is all an accident? They are trying to mislead people into something that's politically charged, right? And by the way, I mean, just the fact that Fomenko hasn't been clued into the Earth not being a spinning ball, okay? If you think that this is just something, let me show you. Fomenko Museum, okay? He has his own museum, and it's actually a Museum of the New Chronology. This is funded by the Russian government. The Russian government is not going to fund anything, okay? But this guy has his own museum for his works. And his works basically supplant all of the Western history and put it in Russia. So what they've done actually is they haven't gotten rid of the 1,000 years. They've just moved the 1,000 years of ancient history into the Middle Ages. That's it. So these people are recentists, okay? I'm not acknowledging that they do all kinds of good work, but look at this, okay? Look at this. Tell me this picture doesn't scream of creating a new Mecca for the Muslims. Center. Stolica Imperia. That means basically the seat of the empire in Russia. It's in a circle with everything going through it, all the trade and everything. That's why people have been deceived, like myself, to believe that this place near Kazan with a holy spring and black stones is Mecca. I'm here to tell you, people that applaud Fomenko's work are going to lead people eventually to that. They just haven't revealed it yet. This is just my thoughts. Take it or leave it. Okay, so let's see. I was thinking of changing it. Oh, okay. Yeah, Muhammad Shahrur, right. So Muhammad Shahrur, very interesting man. I think he died sadly. This man has led the way for people to become Quran based before television, before the internet. Okay, he died in 2019. There are many people here that you'll be surprised. Like in the Middle East, you're gonna find so many people that are Quran based. Okay, so one such example, for example, Muhammad Shahrour. Okay, I'll put Muhammad Shahrour. If you speak Arabic, I recommend you watch these channels. Some of them are translated into English. 223,000 subscribers to this man's legacy. Okay. Another one is Muhammad Hidayah. So not just Syrians, Egyptians. There's a lot of Egyptians. 185,000 subscribers. Okay. These are people that watch. I mean, some people don't even subscribe, but they love the content. This guy, I don't know where he is. I think he's hiding in somewhere, because you know those governments in the Middle East, they're not very friendly to these people. Here's another one, Dr. Ali Mansour Kayali. Okay, these people, he's got 1 million subscribers. These people openly laugh. They openly laugh and mock the scholars around them, the Salafi hooded imams. Okay, they mock their stupid fatwas, and everybody knows that they're just very bad. And they watch these people that go say, follow the Quran. The Quran has the wisdom. The Quran is an explanation for everything. You feel at peace watching these videos. And I'm not saying that everything is right what these people are saying. Clearly, to each their own. But I respect the attention the Quran is given. Okay, and Adnan Ibrahim, that's another one. Adnan Ibrahim exposes so much from hadith. Okay. You know, just there, Muhammad Shahrour, I mean, I have to give him credit. You know, he's done wondrous things. I can't say that he's figured out everything. Nobody has figured out everything, but people have clearly led the way for us in this time, right? Yep. Dr. Hani is brilliant in linguistics as he understands the language at another level. Yeah, I don't have a problem with people striving to that. I just, for me, Dr. Haney's channel is not for me. I I just have a different approach, and you know, to each their own. Definitely, the son was not Ismail alayhi salam. Yeah, it doesn't mention his name, right? It doesn't mention his name, and we're still working on the genealogy of these prophets. It doesn't reflect at all what they tell us. Doesn't mean multiple gods. Okay, one sec. It means our Allah, said Allahumma. Oh, so Islam. Okay, let me see. No, assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum. Surah Maryam. Yeah, I'm just scrolling down the comments here. Yeah, thanks, Amir. I it's all good. Let me just refresh this. One sec. Okay, so yeah. In Surah Maryam, Ismail salam was Nabi and is Rasul, therefore Rabbihi Mardiyan. I'm not sure what that means. Ismail Umar. I don't know what that means. Shout out. Does the Quran suggest any specific way of praying or remembering Allah? Well, here's the thing. When you look at the Quran, clearly it's a remembrance of something really profound, right? Clearly, it's giving you insight that no human could come up with by trial and error. That's why revelation is so important. Okay, there's something wrong. I can't actually. Let me just go to the video. One sec. Bear with me, guys. It's my first time on this, so I just wanted to test it out, you know. So if I go here, okay. And then pop out chat. Okay. Yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, any specific way of praying, remembering Allah? I mean, this is going to vary by person to person, right? That's why Allah's rules in many cases are very general to accommodate all types of people. This is the universality of the Quran. Um, some people will say ruku' means kneeling. It doesn't mean bowing. Some people will say sujood doesn't mean actually prostrating. It means respecting, revering. Some say sujood is not actually worship, but it's actually repenting. You're going to find a diversity of understanding of these ayat, right? Let me just put a live chat here. Okay. So yeah, I think that one of the best ways to remember Allah is to read this book. Think about this book deeply. Use um, as much as you can offer through your time to really strive with the Quran. Okay, don't be one of those people that abandon it, right? You want to, just pick a surah and say, okay, I want to learn about this. So you go and you find out word by word and you think really deeply about it, like Allah tells us to do this. Tadabbur al-Qur'an. What does that mean? You reflect on the verses. You're conscious of the ayat. Taqwa is increasing in your consciousness, right? So there's many ways, brother. I mean, just look at where you can contribute things in your own life personally. I mean, health is such a huge way of your salat, right? It's huge way of your salat, right? Most people neglect that. They fast and they get less healthier after their fast during Ramadan. So that's just the proof, that there's some kind of corruption in the religion, not the religion of God, but the religion claimed to be God. So it looks like we're around the 2-hour mark. So let me just see. I hope you guys are not bored. Okay, I'm just plowing through these comments. Will there be more part videos on the Mecca series? Yep, Anis, great question. Mecca is one of the biggest undertakings I've ever done. So what I'm working on right now is part 5. Part 5 is all about the mythological proofs from all the stories. And you can imagine that's a big undertaking, right? Take all of these, like legends, okay? There's thousands of them, hundreds of them, dozens of them. Then you have to, for every culture, every nation, they've made these stories based on this one story. Then you have to look through religions. You have so many different religions they've made up, right? So the struggle in part 5 is compressing all of that into one video. And I'm trying to do, something along those lines. But basically what I want to show is I want to provide what Allah says, look at these legends, because the disbelievers, they say the Quran is mythology. They even talk about religions today as mythology. Islamic mythology, Abrahamic mythology. They say Abrahamic cults, right? These people in academia, they think this is all nonsense, and we know better, okay? So let's see here. Hope that answers your question. But yeah, if you go to my community tab, I'm just going to show you right here, okay? I laid out the parts, okay? I have a plan, and Allah knows best how that is going to be carried out. But these are the plans. Let me just show you. These are the titles so far. These are the ones that are completed. Alhamdulillah, I didn't know I'd even get that far. And these are the ones that are planned, okay? So this is the next one. And this one, they're all built on each other, right? So this one is supposed to establish what are we expecting to find there if we ever hypothetically go to Mecca. What do we expect to find there if we just put all of those stories together? Part 6 is about what does the Quran corroborate from these stories, literally in the Arabic text, okay, about this sanctified place. That's part 6. Part 7 is super interesting because this is about the straight path, okay? If you think that the prophets before us were, backwards, unsophisticated, impoverished people that, lived in like obscurity and squalor, nothing could be further from the truth. This is basically about understanding the mechanics of what this world was like. Okay. That's all I can say so far. Part 8 is about what happened. How did we end up here? What happened to that place that now we're divorced from it and we can't go there freely, and we've even forgotten where it is. Okay. Part 9 is going to be literally like the pièce de résistance, as they say, because Allah is talking about people returning there. He's talking about the day of the conquest. And this one really sets in, right? Okay, that this is serious stuff. So before we can reveal the major conclusions regarding that, we have to start from square one, right? Because people they need things in bite-sized quantities, right? So that's where I'm going for. Okay. Earth is really not a spinning ball. Here's my rendering salat commitment. Yeah, just play around with that root, solo. Okay, Sod lam wow. Then say, okay, what does Sod lam ya mean? What does Aleph Sod lam mean? You see, I'm just changing up the roots to find deeper connections. Asil, authenticity. Sali, burning, some kind of ignition. That's metaphysical, right? 1187, they asked sarcastically, O Shu'aib, does your prayer command you that we should abandon what our forefathers worship or give up managing our wealth as we please? Indeed, you are. Yeah, absolutely. So the word there, I think, is as-salatika, right? So clearly, salah can be attached to every single person, but it also has an absolute term, as-salah, okay? So everyone's salah on their personal, like when it has possession on their salatika, salatihim, that's specific to you, right? But as-salah, that's something that is going to never change. It's going to be just in Allah's property, and we are subject to it, some people have said duty, right? So yeah, this etymology is going to be really, really interesting. I think you'll really like presentation on salat when that comes. Salam, bro, have people in the past performed Hajj, and did the Prophet Muhammad perform Hajj? And if so, when do you think he lived roughly? You guys are right on the money with these questions. So basically, of course people performed Hajj, right? Since Ibrahim, he's the one that's associated with Hajj. Okay, that has something to do with Hujjah, Hajj. All of these words are connected to some kind of metaphysical proof of God. Hujjat Allah, Hujjat al-Islam. We don't even know exactly what that word really mean. Some people would say it doesn't mean pilgrimage. Okay. I don't doubt that there's a pilgrimage involved, because whatever this place is, it's going to take you some kind of a struggle to get there, right? It's not easy. But once you get there, you're glad you made that journey. And they don't want people to go there for many reasons. I mean, first off, it's not even on the maps. They don't want you to even know about the place. They've created so much mystery around it. They've given you a counterfeit version, like most things. So obviously, the Prophet Muhammad would perform this. I mean, his people at that time, I mean, would be some of the most blessed people in history. You know, just the fact that their lives centered, they got to talk to this amazing human being, right? When do you think he lived roughly? Well, that's still under investigation. Let me show you something. So there are people today claim to be descended from the Prophet Muhammad, okay? The Prophet Muhammad is said to have existed 1400 years ago, Hijri, right? Approximately 1400 years. They always repeat that term. So when you go to the genealogy of some people that claim to be descended from the Prophet Muhammad, okay? They're called Sayyids, and one of them happens to be the ruler of Jordan, okay? King Abdullah II of Jordan. So here is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And then here is the current ruler of the state of Jordan. All you have to do is just count all those generations in between there. You'll get to about 40 or so generations that are direct descent. Okay. So when you use generations, that's roughly 20 years, right? So people oftentimes around 20 years, 25 years, they have children. And that creates a new generation. So what you're talking about is 40 times 20 or 25. And of course, people had kids much more earlier than now, right? What you're left with is a claimed genealogy that does not add up to 1400 years. It's less. Not longer, less. It's not even 1,000 years. Which raises the question, so if he's more closer to us, well, then everything makes sense. Then, of course, that, you know, like the Quran was sent down for us to understand just as much as the people at the Prophet's time. Right? I wouldn't be surprised if the Prophet Muhammad last walked this earth a few hundred years ago. But obviously I can't put a definite on that. I just keep these things in mind, right? There are like, in the Quran you have qarnain, which can be translated as 200 years. That's a period of time as well as physical things, right? Then you have 300 years, right? That's another period of time. Pay attention to these periods of time and you'll understand more from the Quran, like the significance of these cycles, right? Yeah, I read those French blogs too, brother. It's a joke. They secularized the history, made it seem the prophets were just scientists who invented the astrolabe algebra. I laughed at this. Not only that, brother, they say the Quran is just penned by Suleiman, aka Ivan the Terrible, aka Catherine the Great. How laughable is that? What a cop-out. They say that it's actually in Syro-Aramaic text, and it was printed through the printing press. No, it was not. Syro-Aramaic didn't exist. And they actually say that angels don't exist. You know, did you know that? They believe these people are angels. They believe angels are these soldiers in Polish and Prussian history called White Hussars, and they just wear wings on their uniform. So that's Saint Michael on the screen. That's Saint Gabriel. What a bunch of what a cop-out. What an absolute cop-out. Okay. I'm not saying angels are not soldiers, but they're not these humans. Okay. Jinns, I mean, you want to talk about secularizing, right? Some people think that jinns mean genius. So a jinn is just a genius. Do you know where the word genius comes from? Genius? It comes from these supernatural creatures, genies. That's where we get the word genius from. Look, I'll show you right here. This does refer to somebody with exceptional abilities. But that's only because in ancient Rome, there were these spirits called geniuses or genii. They're spirits. They set up shrines for them. They're jinns. The Roman myths talk about jinns. The Greek myths talk about jinns. Every mythology talks about jinns. They're a real thing. They're a parallel species to humanity. They're not smart humans. I mean, if you want to talk, even like Sam Gerrans will say how these are the domini and the peasants are the servii. They're made from fire. Are we made from fire? Maybe you can argue we're made from fire in some way, but these beings are really old. They're really different than us. But they have the same, they're looked at with a level playing field when it comes to piety, okay? They made Fomenko a Russian Tesla. I know the Russian government supported him, had no idea they had a museum. Yeah, Qur'anutics. Fomenko wrote science fiction. If he didn't write it, maybe his father wrote science fiction. Like, I mean, there's some sketchy things going on there. All right. Oh, greetings. Salam, brother Yakshamanji. Salam, Monty. If you haven't checked out Yakshamanji's channel, please do. Also, I want to shout out to Qur'anutics. Qur'anutics has compiled playlists on his channel of all the Quran-based content on YouTube. It's a massive contribution. So if that's a good source to actually find this material. MHIM. What do you think of the Salah that the Quran Alone channel, The Warner, produced? Okay. So I like this channel. Just across the board, this helped me understand many things. And that's really what this is about, right? We're on this journey taking the best gems from the people around us to kind of compile a route out of this corruption, out of this mess, right? So this channel called The Warner, you guys can check it out. Just, he believes that there is some kind of a contact prayer, right? I wonder if it will come up here. I know there's another one. No, that's not the one. This is a Sunni guy. Let's see. This is the one. So this guy, may Allah bless this brother. May Allah bless all the people striving in the Quran. All the people that are not even aware of the Quran, but are open-minded to this revelation. This brother has really extensively studied so many things, from cosmology, from Salah, he's even done a very good exposition of the 19ers, the Rashad Khalifa followers, which I do not subscribe to whatsoever. And he's just very talented at making these videos fluid. I really recommend Sahih Hadith Exposed. And also this one here, the chain of narrators as well. So this contact prayer, clearly there's nothing wrong with taking this brother's fruits and applying it to your own life, okay? But, my goal in this is to go to the root of things before we can establish, the details of it. So, for example, if you do this prayer, right, and let's say you face Mecca, or you don't face Mecca, no problem. There has to be some kind of a give and take, right? Does sujood really mean touching the floor with your head? Is there anywhere in the Quran to suggest that? I know that sujood, for instance, is something the sun can do, something the moon can do, something the trees can do, the stars, the mountains, I think. We have to really go to the root, the etymology of all these words before we can establish another ritual. Okay, no problem with what he did. I support Salat al-Wusta, for example. But for me, I don't think this is sufficient for my standard. Maybe you can disagree, no problem. But I think that Allah is trying to connect with us in a deeper level than even this. Okay, and again, I support the brother in the efforts and bringing people to the Quran. He's got 4,000 subscribers. Okay, not that that means anything, but I'm saying that this movement is growing. It's resurging, and I've seen that in my personal life in recent months. Yeah, I think there has to be more work done on the Quran translation, especially that. Quranisha Islam. Who is Abu Lahab? Well, the Quran tells you, right? I mean, it tells you who it's not, but who it is, I mean, that we can debate that. But yeah, let's go to may the hands of Abu Lahab be ruined, and ruined is he. Okay? And that will avail him his wealth and what he has earned. He will be burnt in a fire. Notice this word. Sayasla. Sayasla. Okay, this is related to Salah, by the way. نارا ذات لهب امرأته حمالة الحطب. So his wife gets the punishment with him, right? Now the question is, if you agree that this is Fir'aun's wife is one of the most amazing women in history, up there with Maryam. So Abu Lahab's wife is not seen as a believer, not at all. That's not what you get from the impression of the surah. So you just have to ask yourself, if Abu Lahab is Fir'aun, and Allah exalts Fir'aun's wife as a model for women in the Quran, logically, Fir'aun is not Abu Lahab. Does that make sense? So, yeah, I can explain. So, how can it be Abu Lahab when Fir'aun's wife was a righteous woman? His two hands were Qarun and Haman. There's something wrong with this term. Abu Lahab is more archetypal in Quran than a specific real personality. This is the thing. These surahs, if you notice, at the very end of the Quran, they are very esoteric, only on the surface, because we have no context, right? Maybe what we can do slowly is try to unravel what the context of this Quran is from the Quran, from using this as a guidance for the world around us, all the evidences of the world around us. Then we can figure out, okay? Imra'a is used, hot spring, throughout the Quran to mean wife or woman. Again, there is work to be done in that area, but you see how massive of a workload we have. This should have been done a long time ago. 1400 years of history, and we're here. I mean, yeah. Major studies needed on Quranic terms. Yeah, there's a lot of ambiguous translation there, right? Jinns are different from humans, shayateens in both creations. Yeah, that's what I understand as well. And again, understandings can evolve with more knowledge, right? We've all come from this area of ignorance, right? Every one of us. We're like orphans in this world, and then we increase in guidance, just like Allah did for the Prophet Muhammad. We follow that model as believers, for sure. Back when I was a hollow earther, I vowed to make such a trip. Ironically, after learning the Quran is the truth, I still plan such a trip and the place remains the same. Subhanallah, right? Subhanallah. Yeah. If you have a moment, what is the kafur in 76.5? Is it a cup of disbelievers or the name of a spring, or is it camphor? Brother, I mean, you know, this etymology, let me see here if I can. This etymology is not to be ignored, right? Because it's from this root, kafur, kafir, kuffar, kafara, kufr. So clearly, there's got to be something related to that, right? What it is, I have no answer for that at the moment. But yeah, the way to find these answers are there. That's part of Allah's mercy, right? Even things appear to us as a mystery. It's actually just we just haven't found the right way to figure out the methodology. That's still evolving, but clearly there's been some fruits from it, because I believe Allah guides us. Allah guides people that stick to His book. I feel like the Prophet was a lot more recently than conventional history suggests. Yeah, man. I mean, soaring bird, like you just have to think, like, this messenger is living in a society that we're heading into, okay? And if it wasn't for the internet, there would be a lot of problems trying to figure that. But now, because of the internet, it's like the hadith stuff has just, what do you call it? They can't alter the grading of hadith anymore. They do that, by the way. They do that, okay? There's some great articles you can find in Quran Talk blog where he mentions that gradings of hadith change. Even a great example is on sunnah.com, it will be graded as sahih. But in the actual book, sunnah.com references, it'll be da'if. And the reason why is because, Sheikh Nasruddin al-Albani, he came in the 90s and he just authenticated it all for us. May Allah bless him and feed him birds, right? For explaining the religion 1400 years after. So, yeah. Quran Morphology, Assalamu alaikum, are eagerly waiting for Mecca series. Yeah, I mean, this is so much bigger than us. This is so much bigger than us, these topics. How can we have reduced this to this tiny little insignificant cursed land? Really, it's a cursed land when you think about it. They could have made it anywhere. They put it in the desert because they know there's just no life there whatsoever. I can never figure these things out. Oops. I think I'm watching live and then I'm several minutes behind. Yeah, Yakshamanji. Don't worry. I think you're good. Sujood cannot be physical. Yeah, hot spring. I leave the door open for these kinds of questions, because when you don't know, just be open-minded. Like I'm fully on board with being refuted on everything. Okay, but we do need an alternative. We do need a viable alternative to what we've been lied about. That's all I'm saying. I'm logging to establish Salat according to God. It's so hard to figure out the truth. Yeah, but that's why it's only a few people, right? It's only a minority that hold to the Qur'an. The world is run by people who promote fear of God, so we are busy with rituals. ARMBV, I couldn't agree more. Like, imagine you tell people, have you guys, I like to have fun in these. This is such a casual, my heart really opens up with people like this, If you guys seen this channel, it's called Bukhari TV. I mean, doesn't that tell you everything? This guy is so funny. Okay. I can't tell you how many of these videos I get recommended on YouTube just because I search Islamic stuff on YouTube, okay? And his his YouTube shorts are unintentionally funny, okay? I, all honesty to the guy, all respect to the guy. Let him do what he does. Let his sunnah go forth. That's not the sunnah of the Prophet, by the way. But the reason I bring that up is because he'll make videos because from the Salaf as-Salih, from these people, they will say that, you know, make sure you pray all of the fard prayers. Then you pray all of the sunnah prayers. Then you pray all of the nawafil prayers. So right off the bat, you've racked up your ruk'at. Okay, you've wrapped up those ruk'as. What, like 17, 30 of them? How many of them? Then they will say, no, 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 it's not enough. Pray again. Go in the middle of the night and pray 13 rak'ah. Whatever you want, whatever is easy from the Qur'an. Then pray, pray the solar eclipse rak'ah when it happens. Do you not see that it's almost like they are just bludgeoning you with a hammer, trying to say, stop thinking, do what we say. Go on your carpet and just don't think. Do this mindless lifting of hands, whatever you want. There's ikhtilaf on where you place your hands. And then just don't think about God, just focus on not thinking about anything. I'm sorry, but there is so much wrong with that. And you can see how much what they call waswas, okay? How much superstition comes from these things. Make sure that when you go to the bathroom, and I used to do this, that's why I'm so open about it. I want to expose this because it's so obvious it's wrong. If you're a woman, it's like, it's such a torture. It's really, really unfair what has been done to women in the name of Islam. And, like you enter the bathroom, أعوذ بك من الخبث والخبائث. I seek refuge from the dirty jinns and female jinns and the dirty male jinns. And then when you exit the bathroom on your right foot, you say, غفرانك. I did all of this stuff, man. You'll find so many channels when, I'll do some channel recommendations. Hanifan, amazing channel. May Allah bless this brother. He got me to understand Salah is not this. When you call upon the Prophet Muhammad, every Sunni calls upon the Prophet Muhammad in prayer. There's no way around it. Ya ayyuhan nabi. That's wrong. That is shirk. I'm sorry to say. It's wrong. Yeah, comment below if you disagree. I don't care anymore. Like, it's 2024. We have the internet. It's all being exposed slowly. People are leaving this cult mentality. Great channel. This guy is, I think in New Zealand, he was a Salafi. And he knew that all this stuff was wrong. Let me show you another channel of an ex-Salafi. His name is Hussein al-Khalil. May Allah bless this man. He has this guy, not this guy. This guy has made so many videos, just very common sense explanation of the Quran in Arabic, translated into English, and translated into French. Isn't that amazing? He's got so much of an audience, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. These videos, check them out. You'll be glad you did it. Yeah, they waste their time with these rituals. These rituals don't increase people in iman whatsoever. They just blindfold people. I'm sorry to say. Not to say you can't do it. I have no right to say what you can and can't do. That's up to you, and it's between you and God. Okay? Been watching your videos lately. Just found you. Welcome, average name. Welcome to the channel. May Allah keep you guided on your journey. Whatever salat or hajj is, to promote love. To live your whole life based on God's instructions. Uphold the salat. Yeah, another thing about salat, do you know the story of Khidr in the Quran and Musa? Let me show you guys this, okay? So when you go to the Quran, there's a story of a wall. And this wall in Surah Al-Kahf, which every Muslim reads every Friday, as we're told to do that, to protect us from Dajjal. So this wall, Al-Jidar, this is not a normal wall. This is like the wall, right? Allah is telling you this is the wall. فَكَانَ لِغُلَامَيْنِ. So two boys. Let me go to the first reference. It's this one. Okay, so that's how you know the jidaran is the jidar, the same thing. Okay, so when they set out, فَانْطَلَقَ, until, notice here it's until, not ila. When they are brought, family of the town, أهل القرية, they asked for food from its people or family, and they refused, and they didn't offer them hospitality. I mean, just look where this word is used. Look at the stories where this word is used. You can figure out where this happened. Okay. ووجد فيها جدارا يريد أن يقض. So this wall wanted to collapse. From the translation, I'm not imparting my own tafsir. What did Khidr do? فأقامه. This is the word that's used for salah. Unequivocally, أقيموا الصلاة, أقيمون الصلاة, أقيموا الصلاة. There are many things that follow this verb. And it just so happens to be a wall in this case that is meant to be put back in order, restored. Please, reflect on things like that. Like, Allah is not going to use verbs poetically. He's going to use them exactly to the book what it means, right? Yeah. Let's see. Place is a gold mine. The moment complete. Thank you so much, Soaring Bird. I really appreciate that. I'm just doing what I can. How can we be sure that the resources used to understand the meaning of it not being manipulated? Shouldn't the ultimate resource understand and be independent? I'll tell you right now. Okay, so Birdsong, maybe you came a little later. I was kind of describing this right from the beginning of the stream, which right now we're going up to almost 3 hours, I think. The Quran is its own dictionary. I know this sounds very crazy. I remember commenting on some channels like way back in the summer that to be the case. And people don't understand what that means. The Quran uses words in a way that they are not necessarily used today in modern Arabic. Just watch my video on Nasara and Yahud, and you're going to find out this cannot just apply literally exclusively to Jews and Christians. The reason why is because you have to look at how Arabic is also a language, the letters of which, the words of which, the associations of which have been preserved. The only thing that has been confused is the meaning. And why has the meaning been confused? Because people have abandoned the Quran. The Quran uses a certain meaning to Nabi. Nabi ukum, inform them. Does that mean prophesy to them? No. That's how we know prophet is really a misnomer for the word Nabi. Israel. What does Israel mean? Does that mean Isra of Allah? No, it would have been Isra Allah. Isra has been completely twisted what that means. Nasara. Does that mean Christian? No. In Arabic today, they don't even call people Christians that are Nasara. So when you look at how a word is used in the Quran, just briefly the methodology, okay, Birdsong? Go to any dictionary. I really recommend you look at this dictionary, livingarabic.com, and you can just find anything there, right? Like, let's say, Araba. Many people don't understand what Arabic means from the root, Araba. And when you look here, okay, think, just use by process of elimination what makes sense, how you can describe this root and how it relates to how the root is used in the Quran. And you study a bit of Arabic grammar, you figure out how things, this has been a long process for it's an uphill battle, right? But it's coming to fruition gradually. Arab, Arabs. Is Arab a people, or is it a language group, or is it a people who speak the language, the tongue? Notice when you go down, what you're going to find is you're going to find redundancies in the translation of one word. So think about it. Here we go. So Arabiya is the language. Okay. Let me find it here. To make Arabic. Here's a good one. Araba means to make Arabic. But what does it also mean? To express, to voice, to state clearly, to declare. Right there you can see the purpose. One of the reasons why Allah revealed the Quran in this cosmic language of Arabic. It's not a people. It's a tongue that precedes the creation. Allah spoke in this language, if I can even say that. I mean, He said kun fayakun in the Quran, everything came to be. Arabic, okay? Switch the letters around. What do you get? If you go here, you know what I mean? Like, just use process of of elimination. Go to Wiktionary and type in the same thing. Look at different languages, how they define. You're gonna find out what I want to do a video on this, inshallah. But basically, they have put correct meanings in these fake Semitic languages like Hebrew, Aramaic, Syriac, even non-Semitic language, Greek and stuff. Look at what salat means in Greek. And then look at what salat means in Aramaic. Compare these things. Really broaden your data collection. This is how you can avoid misunderstandings. Okay. The meaning of the Quran has absolutely been manipulated, no question. But the Quran is going to show you the way gradually. If you're careful, if you're attentive to what is the real meaning. Again, I mentioned some other things in the start of the video if you want to check. Thank you, Soaring Bird. I appreciate it. Thank you, Yakshamanji. Shout out to Yakshamanji. Average name. I watched Endgame Islam saying Garen's a couple days ago. Found his channel. Awesome. Jamal Futa. Is this a Quran alone channel? I noticed you also refer to mythology in the Bible a bit. Jamal, I think something that's a bit of a misnomer about Quran alone is that we just literally believe like Torah Jews or Karaite Jews, which, by the way, the Jews are the only people that are allowed to be called the Quranists, right? Qara'im, readers. But what Qur'aniyun, what they called us so many different things in history. I mean, they called us Khawarij, they called us Ahl al-Kalam, they called us, all these kinds of things. Now the latest one is Hadith Rejector, Qur'aniyun. No problem. It's a beautiful name, people of the Quran. Mythology in the Bible are one of the ways that they have seeded what the Quran is referencing. So when you open up the Quran, you read a story, what you're going to see is you don't really have any context because we're not taught these things from a young age, especially if you grow up in Islam, one of the sects of Islam. So what is interesting is you want to look for parallels. Notice there are in the Quran parallelisms, what they call mutashabihat and muhkamat. All the verses are clear, but they have different functions. Everything's in pairs. Amazing. So when you look at mythology, you're gonna find what the Quran references. Is that a coincidence? No, it's not. This book is for the worlds. Every culture has a memory of this book somewhere in their worldview, in their religions, in their mythology, in their culture. This is why I look at these things. And especially for Mecca, because something like Mecca is going to be really in everyone's. Let me ask you something. Do you really think the Quran's tradition is confined to the Arabia Peninsula? Of course not. Of course not. Every child, man and woman, is born with this inclination that this is the calling of their creator. The ad-din al-Islam is not predatory. It's not meant to conform everyone to a certain viewpoint. It's meant to reveal how we're all connected. Doesn't Allah say in that beautiful, beautiful ayah, we have not created you except so you come to know each other. This is how it's going to happen, guys. Brothers and sisters, we're just figuring out the Quran is this universal tradition across time and space. It has our true history. It has our true home, the heavens and the earth. It has our true significant characters for all time and space, for Bani Adam, at least. It has our true flora and fauna, okay? True, like, sciences. And I have playlists planned for all of these things. It just takes time, right? To collate all this information. So that's why I look at the Bible mythology, because I'm trying to figure this stuff out myself, right? Yeah. Mecca is by far the most popular series, at least until Salah. Well, look at it this way, Qur'anutics, and this is for everyone, right? What are the first things they tell you when you tell them, hey, you know what, this hadith about drinking camel urine, that's not for me. I don't see the authenticity of that. This hadith about most women ending up in hellfire, that's not for me. I just, doesn't make sense, doesn't ring true in my heart. There are many beautiful hadith. There's no question. What we're talking about when we say hadith is not limited to the Arabic books of the scholars. It's limited to everything. These myths are hadith. The Bible is hadith. The news is hadith, as I mentioned earlier in the stream. But, you know, what are the first questions they ask you? Where is Mecca? How do you perform salah? Which qira'at of the Quran do you read? And a little fourth one, it may be a bonus. They'll say, how do you fast in Ramadan? Do you see what's happening here, brothers and sisters? They are sidelining you to answer these things while they have the wrong version, the provably wrong version. I made this channel because I'm taking this journey to try to come up with a solution from the Quran that doesn't get, like, you know, the verse where it says, the ayah where it says, you know, the truth is from Allah, and when it comes into with falsehood, it obliterates falsehood. That's what I'm trying to figure out with the help of many, you know, amazing, believing brothers and sisters online. So we got Mecca underway, okay? We got Mecca. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So when you look at this channel called Muhammad from God, shout out to Muhammad from God, amazing brother. He really puts a lot on the line with these videos, and I can really tell from his intention, he's trying to do the right thing. He's bringing people closer to this book. And this video, I'm just want you to, if you haven't seen this video, it's amazing. So, you know, this guy Shamsi in Speaker's Corner, he's a character, okay? He's just a character. He couldn't stop repeating this line, Aina Mecca, Aina Mecca. Okay, where is Mecca in Arabic? So I thought to myself, hey, he's got a point. Let's find it. Imagine, with the right intention, you have no idea what you can accomplish if Allah is on your side. Okay. Hafs versus Warsh is another big one. I want to continue that and expose that as well. Salat, obviously, salat is just such a controversial thing. Like, oh my God. Salat, if you take away salat and you replace it with something better, Musa tells Bani Israel, do you want to exchange what's better for you than what's worse for you? Imagine if we were able to do that. And it's entirely possible. All the resources at our disposal, right? That collapses the Sunni paradigm overnight, because that pillar is taken out. Ramadan has already been largely figured out, I would say. A lot of people have figured that out. That's one pillar. Shahada, another thing, that's another pillar. Zakah needs a little bit more work. Hajj, that's part of Mecca, right? Hajj. So really, it's just three pillars left. Salah is like the main one. Salah is like the one in the middle, keeps it all together. So, looking forward to that, guys, inshallah. Does Sola Qur'ana ever take live calls to answer questions? This is an average name. This is the first time I'm doing a live stream. Maybe I can figure out how to have some way of, calling and this, but just this is like a kind of beta test, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great to figure that out. We're in the process of, creating these collaborative communities around this. So, yeah. If you use your intellect, you become a kafir to them. That's why they do not want to use your mind. Do you know why, Hot Spring? Because they are actually mushrikeen. Just go to this channel, Baba Shuaib. Okay? He's like using irrefutable proofs against them. Irrefutable proofs against them. It's laughable. He's really pioneered this, okay? Quranic apologetics, right? So that's why they make takfir, you see, because they'll never make tashriq. Have you ever heard someone make tashriq on somebody? No, they're only against the kuffar because they're coming from the mushrik side. It's like mass shirk, mass hypnosis of shirk. Oh man, I don't know if you guys want to keep going. I mean, I can go. It's like almost 3 hours, but yes, I can confirm as a woman. Oh, nice to see. We definitely need more women onto this. 100%. We need both perspectives when it comes to this stuff. Hanifin is a Turkish guy like me. Excellent, excellent. Notice people around the world are noticing this, huh? Yeah. Hussein Al Khalil has an amazing video debunking 7 qira'at. Yeah, must watch. Yeah, it's on the community post there. Very good video. That's why I posted it. Have you heard of Ismaili Shia Muslims? They're very esoteric and don't believe in physical Hajj or traditional Salah. They have 3 du'as at certain times of day and pretty much live like normal people. I mean, Ismaili Shia Muslims, they've been refuted by Sunni Muslims. And I'm not saying that they have any legs to stand on, but I mean, that stuff is just like they don't even pretend to make it monotheist in that regard. Yeah, I've heard of them. Obviously, we've looked into a lot of these things, but you'll notice that the truth is very plain, very simple, easy to understand, clear, and esotericism is just an occult way of gatekeeping the truth. Have you noticed? It's like if you want to enter Freemasonry, if you want to enter Kabbalah, if you want to enter any of these things, a Sufi tariqah, for example. No, you can't know all the knowledge yet. You have to prove yourself, stand on your head 12 times. Then you have to make allegiance to me as your peer, as your Sufi sheikh, as your imam. In the Quran there are imams leading to the hellfire. Imams. So yeah, I don't believe esotericism is the way forward. I think it should be understand exactly as Allah put it there for us. And that destroys the entire house of cards of priesthoods in Islam. So, have you heard of Hassan al-Maliki? I mean, this man, I really, my heart goes out to Hassan al-Maliki. If you guys are not aware, Farhan Hassan al-Maliki, this brother, this uncle, may Allah give him everything he needs. He's in Saudi prison, from what I understand. And the reason why is because he's intellectually honest with what the hadith are. Okay? He's from Saudi Arabia, and he's put in prison on death row because he proved hadith is a fallacious interpolation against the Quran, as well as Islamic history. For example, this video on Quranic Islam, I really recommend you check out this channel. He has a massive library of any kind of book you want about Islam. And he's got Shia books, Sunni books, philosophical books, any biographies of the Prophet. He's got, it's massive. It takes up an entire room. And this man, he organized this book, this library chronologically. Smart, because then you could see how things change over time. What he noticed is that some of the first hadith compilations, one of which is Musannaf Abdul Razzaq. This predates Bukhari's compilation. He has a lot of these things that are actually just fatwas of the companions. But in Bukhari later, they're prophetic sayings. Why? Because if the companion said something, they probably heard it from the Prophet, and the Prophet said it. You see the danger of this, right? It's literally a conspiracy. That's why these people who put hadith and printed hadith on modern printers in the last 200 years, they called it hadith. The Quran warns you about hadith, and this corpus of works is called hadith. Okay. I feel weird about the Kaaba in Mecca, as most understand it, but for now I'm still praying in that direction. I also fasted the complete traditional Ramadan and open to change, inshallah. Average name, I commend you on your open-mindedness. And what you can see is that everybody has a starting point. Some of us start as Yahud, some of us start as Nasara, some of us start as Sabi'un, some of us start as Alladina Aminu. Maybe in the future, inshallah, people will start as believers, right? But for the time, we all have a starting point. And the Prophet himself in the Quran officially was an orphan who was guided by God himself. Yeah, Babu Shuaib is the man. The more I investigate Qur'an, the more distant I become from rituals. I love Babu Shuaib. Yeah, he's done a lot of work, really. Africa, if you've noticed, is very West Africa, other places in the African continent, they have, and obviously he lives in Finland, but I'm saying like Ghana, for example, they have growing, like old communities of people reading the Quran, following the Quran. Any thoughts of Sam Garrett's translation of Salat as duty? Well, I kind of mentioned this if you weren't part of the stream earlier. It seems to fit in most of the context that I can recall from my studies of the verse. Correct. The only thing is that, this is not just duty, it's the duty, if you use that word, right? And Sam Garrett's, all power to him, he's done phenomenal work. No question. But again, we're always building on what the people before us have done, right? We want to improve things. So his major assumption, from what I understand, was that Allah says, seek help through as-sabr, as-salat was-sabr. So that's obviously the duty and patience. There's only one problem though. Sabr is given a definite article, so clearly that's not something to trifle with, right? That's not just ordinary patience. And patience, it's like, think about it. There's an ayah in the Quran. Let me just show you, because sometimes I reference ayahs in the Quran, and some people haven't heard of these things, but this is a story of Dawood. When they went forth to Goliath and his soldiers, Jalut and his soldiers, they said, "Our Lord, Rabbana, أفرغ علينا صبرا." This is not poetry, brothers and sisters. Sabr is something very significant in the way it's used in the Quran. It's literally pour this on us. So when you go to this verse, which is mentioned twice, seek help by sabr was salat. It's not general things. It's not the foxtrot and patience. Okay, this thing called as-sabr is something tangible. I know it sounds crazy. There is an endurance, because you don't know where this was being fought. Do you think that, think about it. Is Allah going to tell us about some tiny war we have no recollection of with Jalut and his army? Do you think he's going to give us this knowledge that has no effect on history? This war was massive. This battle was massive. And it was in a very amazing place. Okay? So when he's saying, "Oh Lord, pour upon us a sabr," or sabran. The people at this time use this word differently. Endurance, some kind of endurance that they had to be cloaked in to fight these people. Plant firmly our feet. Is that poetry? No, it's not poetry. So let me just go back to the comment section. You also have other things like duty, right? Last time I checked Saint Garen's translation, he couldn't really point to something definitive about as-salat al-fajr, the duty of the dawn. Now let me ask you, what do you think that means? Why would Allah waste his time talking about things everybody knows anyway? You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you put on your clothes, you get ready for the day. That's what Sam Garens actually thinks as-salat al-fajr is. Doesn't that seem a bit like underwhelming? Salat al-ishi. Oh, the duty of the night, the duty of the evening. Oh, just getting ready for bed, brushing your teeth. No. Al-Fajr, I'm telling you right now, Al-Fajr, every person will witness that. That's a major thing in the Quran, Al-Fajr. That's not by the way, Al-Fajr, with a definite article, is not a 24-hour cycle you see every day. Why? Because there's nothing special about that from the standpoint of all humanity. Allah is talking about the dawn. So when you see in the Quran, it says Qur'an al-Fajr, Salat al-Fajr. Then you have a Salat al-Wusta. What do we already know what Wusta means? Centrality. Right? Where did I find this? So we go to Salat, right? Yep, right here. Further down. Yep. So if you go to, maybe I should put middle. Yep, this is the verse. Wusta. Guard strictly upon the salawat. Do you guys see the problem? Guard strict upon, protect upon, memorize upon. This is why we have to do a lot of work in translation that are 100% work in every ayah the word is used in, and they work within the root as well. This is the methodology, the only one that can work. We cannot have ambiguous translations all the time. That's salawati. Now here's a definite record. The salawat was salati al-wusta. So that is the salah of the middle. They put this in square brackets because they don't want you to see that this is a noun used as an adjective. Right? So like when you say as-salat al-anhar, that literally is possessive. It means like the salah of the daylight. An-nahar, sorry. An-nahar. Al-anhar. The salat of the rivers. Whatever. You can put anything in there. The salat of the wusta. What is the wusta, guys? You see where this is penetrate in the center. Awsat, median. Okay, moderation, median. Awsatihim, their median. Wasatan, ummatan, wasatan. So this word is used in a root, has to do with centrality. Now, you could argue it's the central one in time, but let me show you something, guys. Maybe you guys haven't seen this before. And I'll just end the whole kind of salah questions because you can just watch this stream. There's a word about this. I want to expand people's conceptions there. I want to expand how you view the salat. Okay? I already said that you qaim as-salah exactly like a wall is restored, right? Did you guys know that they have fabricated an ambiguous translation of this word? طرفاً, طرفي, أطرافها, وأطرافها, وأطرافها. Here, we see its borders. Why? Because it says, have they not seen that we set upon the land, al-ard, the earth, reducing it from its borders? أطرافها. No question, that's spatial, right? Here we see the same thing. Provided good things. They do not see we set upon the arda, reducing it from its borders. Its physical spatial borders. Tarafan. You might cut down a section. So again, it says physical division and physical space, okay, of disbelievers. Then we have where salah is mentioned. And what do we see? Establish prayer at the two ends of the day. No. How can you tell me this is two ends? Tarifi. How can you tell me tarafay? How can that be two ends? You just told me here it's borders of the earth. Okay, same here. Atrafa. Be patient over what they say. Praise your Lord before the rising of the sun and before its setting, and during periods of the night and at the ends of the day. You guys, this is not ends of the day in time. Why? Because we already know that this means borders in other verses. Is it time or space? Maybe it's both, but it can't be one or the other. You know what I mean? It has to apply universally. This word, the daylight, an-nahar, and this word al-layl, the night, and this word ghurubiha, and this word tulu', okay? Ghurubiha is Ghurubiha is in this story, guys. This is a station of the sun. Now, what I'm trying to get at is we cannot use this term that there's ends of the day that are, I mean, this is the day. If you don't know what that means, we'll have to discuss that in a different video, but just ponder these things, right? Why would they put it only for the Salah verses, two ends of the time period, instead of the spatial land? Just something to think about. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this, guys. I might have to shut it down. Shut it down at some point. I'm getting thirsty, you know. My apologies, brother. Just jumped in a little while. Oh, no problem. I'm happy to. Sorry, excuse me. I'm happy to answer questions. There's no problem. We're on the same page, brother. No worries. What about our calendar? I don't think Qur'ana calendar is solar calendar. Of course, it's not the solar calendar, ARMBV. I'm so glad you brought this up because I was just talking to somebody about this today. Oh, that's right. Now that you remind me, let me bring up the verse. Let me know if you guys. Let me know if you guys want me to stop, okay? Because I feel like I could keep on going and on and on and on. But okay, so Companions of the Cave. If you watched my video, there's this verse right here. And they remained in their cave for 300 years and exceeded by 9. Right, so this is the verse used by many Muslims, even mainstream, you know, Sunni Muslims, to say that there are 2 calendars Allah is referencing. Why? Because one of them is 300 years, the solar count. And then if you add roughly 9 years, not exactly 9 years to 300 years, you get the lunar time period. One problem though, that number 9 is not referencing the years. You know why? I'm going to show you. They remained in their cave for 300 years, and they increased 9. It's right there in the Quran. Izdadu. They increased, that they may increase. SubhanAllah, guys, they have totally hidden something that's like crucial knowledge here. I asked an Arabic speaker, like, hey, can you point me in the right direction? Is this talking about the years or the people? And he said, the people. Like, why did they say it's the years? Now, the sun and the moon are used for calculation. No doubt. No doubt. So, oh, where is it again? I can't find it basically, but basically there is there are at least 1 or 2 verses in the Quran say the sun and the moon are used for keeping track of accounting, which is to do with quantity in time, in space, so many things, not just the calendar. So clearly we have some kind of a reference in the Quran of a totally different calendar, lunisolar calendar. And let me just show you something here. The lunisolar calendar is still used to this day. Guess who uses this calendar? The Chinese. They use this calendar. The West also uses partially a lunisolar calendar. Hebrews. The Jews use a lunisolar calendar. The Japanese. Some of the ancient pre-Islamic calendars in South Arabia. So they're telling this is the way we keep track of time. And so around every 3rd year, you will end up with a month added of time. That's why the lunar calendar is around 10 nights different than the solar one, if I remember correctly. Okay, so this is how like Ramadan will always be within the same time range. You're not going to have Ramadan in the middle of winter, in the middle of the hardest heat, you know, the most hottest month, right? So, yeah, it's in the Quran. That's not the verse for it. From my understanding, from Arabic speakers that I've learned from, the word for lunar calendar is Hujj. So in the story of Musa, he says, I will work for you 8 Hujj or 10 Hujj. And then you have in this, the solar one is Sinin, right? So Yeah, hope that makes sense. We have a lot of work to do on the Quranic calendar. It's so interesting, guys. Like the zodiac and astrology, the constellations, the stars, the names of the months of the Islamic calendar, the names of the months of the other calendars. This is why, like, we have to put all of these things together, reconcile these truths. There's truth under every rock, under every leaf, and the Quran is the guide. Quran alone seems to have grown in popularity. I ponder around common denominators. Were we in this room all conspiracy theorists? Yeah, I mean, a lot of us are. That's why we know something's up, right? I mean, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they make this the ultimate conspiracy? It's literally the speech from the creator. That must keep them up at night, knowing that that book is still out there. So they'll do anything to distract you guys. They'll put you in any rabbit hole that you want. This is the main conspiracy, guys. Thanks for the shout out, Ghana. Nice to see. Flat Earth led me to the Quran only. Most people can't fathom. I mean, Birdsong, I'm the same way. I mean, they came to a point where I was like, you know, if the Quran says the earth is this way and everyone else says it's not, I'm okay with that. That's what made the switch for me. One day I just go outside and I'm like, it's like the sun is right there. The moon is right there. It's not the distances they tell us. And that just got the ball rolling. Please speak on the difference between Sunnat Allah and Sunnah of the Prophet. Untold stories, no problem. No problem at all. So if you go here, this word way is translated for so many words, okay? And let's just go right to it. Oh, it's not here. I think it's on like this page, maybe. There it is. So, sunnatu, sunnah. This is an interesting one to figure out eventually, inshallah. But we go root and we try to figure out why is tooth related to sunnah. It seems to be basically some kind of a life that sharpens you like a tooth. Okay, it makes you more aware, more precise, more accurate. So when you look at this thing, sunnah, Sunnat Allah is the only sunnah any of us could follow if we follow to this book. Why? First off, it never changes. There is no change in the Sunnat Allah. What you see what Sunnis say, this is sunnah. Sometimes Shias, they have in their riwayat, in their narrations, the sunnah of the Ahlul Bayt. It keeps changing. It keeps changing time. Every few hundred years, every decades or so, they find out, hey, we actually have to do it this way now. No. There's no change whatsoever. Such is the way. Let me tell you about the other sunnahs. Let me find it here. Here it is. Is it this one? Yep, it's right here. So basically, the Sunnah of God, the way of God, it doesn't belong to the Prophet Muhammad even. It belongs to Allah directly. So every Sunnah of the Prophet, every Prophet will be following this by default. Isn't that amazing? So the Sunnah of Muhammad is as-Sunnah. As-Sunnah, you just, Sunnat Allah equals as-Sunnah. What is that contrasted with? It's contrasted with us. Sunnat al-Awwaleen. That's what we see people following in the world. The Sunnah of the former peoples that were destroyed, the former nations, the civilizations that we don't even have a trace, barely a trace of them. Barely. They were so destroyed back then. Okay? And so, Sunnat Allah doesn't change. It's eternal. It will always be the same. This word, Sunnah, is a good word. The word Hadith is even a good word. Ahsan al-Hadith, the Quran. The word Shia is also neutral in the Quran. But of course, there are Shi'atun that divide the religion. That's not what we're doing. There are Sunnahs of the four peoples. You see now, by the name the two major sects of Islam, Shia and Sunnah. It's not an accident, guys. They took it from the Quran to laugh at us. They laugh at us like this. They know what these words mean. These people are like very talented with languages. Okay. Video on the royal we is a mind-blowing consideration. Yeah, very, very true. Check out who's the brother? I can't recall the channel, but I'm sure you guys know very well this royal we concept. Just you can find it for yourself. Interpretation of wasila in the Quran. I definitely since seeking means. Oh yeah. Let me just show you that. I was confused by that as well. So wasila is mentioned one time. There's only one difference though, and I'll just give you tawassul. Okay, so tawassul. This is intercession. Okay, now basically, let me just find like the spelling of it here. I think I can find it here in Arabic. One second. All right, tawassul. So it's spelled like that, right? With a sin. You can see that on the screen. Tawassul. When you go to this word, it's a different word, right? It's spelled with a slod. Okay, wasila. Now this is a word that's connected to salah, right? Why? Because this root wasla, connecting, joining, reaching, conveying, contacting, connection. This is obviously a root related somehow to the root for salah. Okay, a lot of people use this as the explanation for salah, contact, joining. So this is where this comes from. It's anyone's guess what this means. Okay, the way you want to look at the ayahs of the Quran, you just take one ayah. Okay, then you look at the structure of it. So Allah talks, He has not made this, and not this, and not this, three things, and not this, four things. There are patterns in the Quran. Hamim. Look at the root. Think about, try to like reverse engineer the meaning, right? Wasila, hamim, sa'ibatin. What is this root? It's used only once. Okay. Look at this one. Bahira. It's related to the oceans. Hamim, intense heat. Wasila, connection. Bahri. I'm doing this for the first time, guys. I haven't even looked at this because you can only do so much at the same time, right? You can see the process of steps has to make logical sense. Arabic grammar can teach you a lot as well. Yeah, the whole tawassul is shirk. I mean, it's literally. Let me give you another good website, guys, since you guys are listening to me for 3 hours. This is a beautiful website, and I hope this brother puts back his views to have videos. This really helped me when I was on my journey for years to understand that things in the Quran do not follow what they're practiced as Islam today. And let's look at intercession, shall we? And again, he just takes the verses exactly as they are. Where is it again? There's got to be someone here. I think 2 ways. I'm gonna search it one sec. Oh, I know where it is. I think it's in the Savior one. I think it's in this one. Yep, here it is. There is no Savior, no intercessor for them besides God. Done. And this brother is so cool because he takes a lot of these scriptures. He does his own, textual analysis. So you go to Quran, you see all the verses there. You go to Gospel, and obviously they're not 100% truth, right? But he's doing basically the same thing that all of us are doing, just from a Abrahamic scope. Okay, so for example, the ones in brackets, these are not canonical gospels, and he puts them all. And so when you go to, for example, like Ephesians, right, what you're going to find is if you search the asterisks, right, you'll have a reference to another text that confirms this text. Okay, this is a Quranic verse. For this you know that no unclean person, nor covetous man who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of the Messiah and of God. You go to the thing here. What is the word? Is it 3967? 1 sec. 65. It was already revealed to you and to those before you that if you should associate your work would surely become worthless. Idolatry, right? So he's got Ezekiel there, Ephesians. It's a really amazingly researched website. But let me just get to like the topic at hand. Look at all the verses here against intercession. Look at how Jesus talks in the gospel. Even if you're a Christian listening, please read the text. You know, he interweaves them to show there is some kind of a kernel of truth to these books, right? There has to be. How else would they be convincing? Intercession belongs to God entirely. Say intercession to Allah alone. Just go through them, guys. It's a plethora. It's a treasure trove. It really is. Ultimate Truth does a great job too. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking. Ultimate Truth's Royal We. I understand. I've found this channel recently. Very nice channel. There's so much media now to digest. Oh, you heed warning, remember the favor of God upon you when he came to you. Forces, and we sent them wind. Forces you did not see. God sees what you do. Hussein Garens, may Allah bless all Muslims. My mind goes straight to his translation of Surah 72 and his view on the jinn in that surah. Yeah, I have problems with the translation of jinn by Sam Garens. Yeah, a lot of people do, and again, this is something. There's always going to be that diversity in the believers of the Quran. Always hardest before the finish line. Exactly. Remain firm and all hope is lost. Absolutely, guys. If you guys want some kind of hope in this life, because we understand the hour is very close, really, you got nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Okay. If you hold out long enough, if you're patient and steadfast and endure to the very end, whatever Allah wills, you guys are going to see some amazing, amazing things in the future. I'm telling you that honestly, openly. These people that have made this corruption on earth, their time is ending. Their time is over practically. They're just buying their time, guys, with these red calves and there's all these World War III allegations. Don't worry, guys. Everything is good. Struggle and persevere and keep true to what's in the Quran and what the Quran confirms. But let me tell you, this life is so amazing. Looking back, everything that we've been given, despite all of the hardship, all of the suffering, all of the poverty, all of the senseless injustice, it's all going to come to a natural culmination, a climax where justice prevails. So don't ever lose hope. Don't ever lose faith. Okay. It's too early for me to. I intend to put it in the Mecca series. It's the last few parts of that series are going to be very emotional for me. Only because of what it implies. It speaks to who we are on such a fundamental level. Okay. And yeah, just stick it out. Okay. Don't worry, Allah has given us this time to figure out where we're going, where we've been, and who we are. And I believe we will figure that out with His permission. Um, yeah, I'm going to make just a few more questions here. I'm happy to remain here only if you're not tired. Rest when you need to. Yeah, thanks, Bird. I appreciate it. Okay. Let me just refresh the chat. I think it's cut off again. All right, a couple more. Salam. How did the prophets get to Hyperborea? Thank you for reading. Basically, Hyperborea is just a secular term for this beautiful land that is literally like a microcosm of the heavens and the earth. So take all the continents, take all of the different walks of life, cultures, colors of humanity, and just put them into one place where they have their own heavens, own version of it. They have their own lands. They have their own plant, flora, and fauna. And this is our heritage, guys. It's not for any particular skin color of people. It's not for any particular culture that seeks to make this exclusive. It's for humanity. And I would even argue it's for the jinns as well, guys. We're not alone in this universe. Allah tells us there are other people, other peoples, qawm, aqwam, that inhabit this universe with us, parallel to us. And they're neutral, just like us. We have devils from humans, devils from jinns. We have believing jinns and we have believing humans. The jinns have messengers, guys. And the Prophet Muhammad was sent to the realms to bring this Qur'an, which if it descended on a mountain would level it, destroy it utterly. There's nothing that trumps that energy. How did they get there? The question you should be asking, V, salam by the way, the question you should be asking, how did the prophets, the messengers of Allah, get to everywhere else from there? That's something we're going to talk about, inshallah. Suleiman was given command over the wind, and a month's journey became a couple of days. That's something I can't really comment on, other than the fact that think about where Suleiman's kingdom has to be, guys. I mean, you're talking about a kingdom the likes which no one has seen. This is one of his miracles as a messenger, as a king, as a ruler. He was in the place the winds bend to the heavens and the earth. Just look at where the winds come from. Birdsong, do miracles of the prophets do not indicate a change in the sunnah of Allah? No, actually, this is such a good comment. I just want to make sure people understand. There is nothing new from these messengers, al-Anbiya and Nabiyyin. There's nothing new from them. They all come upon what? Millat Ibrahim. And the ones before Ibrahim, I mean, that was a totally different world. But I'm saying, like, Ibrahim represents a turning point where something is established. Salah, Hajj, Zakah, Bayt al-Haram, Scripture, Suhuf. The first mention of Scripture is with Ibrahim, if I'm not mistaken. So there's no change in that since Ibrahim. Isn't that amazing? Yusuf is upon Millat Ibrahim. If you guys want a good overview of Millat Ibrahim, I have to give Endgame Islam credit. These brothers are, like, they're putting a lot on the line giving this information. So just go to part 2 of this one right here. This one is so relevant to today, guys. It's called World War III and the deen of Millat Ibrahim Hanifan, Musliman. So, it continues on from part 1, but basically when you go to deen versus millat, what's the definition? This is what we get into, guys. We go through all of the different versions of what Millat Ibrahim. Look, I mean, Allah inspired the Prophet Muhammad to follow Millat Ibrahim Hanifan. You want to see the verse? 16:123. I challenge any Sunni or Shia to explain this. ثم أوحينا إليك. Second person singular. Okay. أن اتبع ملة إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. Allah saying that we inspired you to follow this prophet. Not just the prophet, us. This is speaking to us now. Yeah. You're welcome, OR. Much appreciated. Kenneth Blaine, when should we look at other languages to understand the Qur'an? Well, a lot of these deep words, like salah, they're shrouded in mystery, right? Just go at it layer by layer. First, look at the word, how it's used in every ayah. And then every ayah, look at what it means. Get information from that ayah. How is that word used? Okay. Then, look at the entire root. Look at how those words are used in the root. Then, when you see, for example, let me just give you an example, salat, okay? This is a great website to compare different languages. So when I go to salat, right? Obviously, we get this baggage from the traditional understanding, right? And so it confuses us. We don't know where to go from here. This is the roots. Wasla is thought to be derived, right? Wasla from salu. Notice they don't have this one conveniently here. Maybe I'll make a video about this. There's some kind of a thing going on. But let's look at what classical Syriac says about this. Prayer, temple, sanctuary, reconciliation, readmission to communion. Take that all with a grain of salt and just ignore the Christianity. Think about what the words mean. What we're talking about in Mecca. Then you look at other roots related to it, like wasla. What does it mean? To arrive somewhere. A place that's a connection between heaven and earth. Think. Something uninterrupted to obtain access to. Tawassula. Okay? This wasila is related to, guys. You see, I'm not dependent on this because I'm not using word for word everything that these dictionaries say. I'm going back to the Quran and filtering it. That's how it makes sense, right? Sila, connection. Wasla, junction. A tie. Okay? Arabic is just a amazing language. Now look at this too. In Arabic, they tell us place of worship, especially of the Jews, hence a synagogue. Were you ever told that salat means synagogue, actually? Salawat. I was never told that. Then you go to salutation. Where does this word salutation come from? Salut. Saluta. Saluto. Salut. Allahumma salli. Right? Allah salutations on the Prophet. Salli. Guys, this is not a coincidence. And so I just follow these trails of curiosity to where they end up. There's no bias. If there's any bias, it would be very obvious, right? I would be promoting something that cannot apply to the Quran universally, like Russian Mecca, like Yemeni Mecca, like Jerusalem Mecca, like Saudi Mecca. Okay. All right. It's getting kind of late, guys. I don't know if I don't know if you can see me as much. The sun is going down. Okay. It's not disappearing over the curve, guys. It's just طلع. It's just emerging into the darkness. So MHIM. I'm going to end this stream with your comment because I think it's a good place to end it. Do you think a divinely inspired leader will fight Gog and Magog in the final battle, or will it be combined effort from awakened Muslims? As we know, they have to be futihat before the last day. This is a beautiful comment. It sends shivers down my spine knowing what this implies. Let me just show you guys one sec. Yeah, Sokhov Ibrahim, that's a whole other topic. Okay, Futihat, right? Opening, conquering. This word is in the Quran. Conquest. Oh, it's not there, eh? Interesting. Let's just say open. There we go. It's not there. Opened. There we go. Nah, opened. Let me tell you guys. What is the first surah of the Quran called? You guys remember? It's called Surah Al-Fatiha. Same root. The opener, the conqueror. You see? When you conquer a city in a war, you get the keys to the city, you open the city up. So they translate this liberally. Given victory, opening, granting, deciding, judging. You guys, we know what the day of the conquest is. Al-Fatah. Fathun. It doesn't mean victory. That's Nasr. Nasr is victory. So what's Fatah? Fatah is a conquest. You can look it up. They've hidden this, guys. Mafatih, the means by which you open a door. Do you understand? There are people, al-Fatihin. You are the best of the Fatihin. Who are these people called al-Fatihin? Why is there surah called al-Fatiha? What are these keys? Let me show you these keys, guys. Is it the keys? No. 1 sec. Opened. You guys. Futihat as-sama'u fakanat abwaban. There are doorways in the heaven that will be conquered for the believers. Now the question is, will we have a leader to come for us? Will we have to partake in that? This is something we have to talk about because they are setting up something for us that is clearly a fake. It's a counterfeit version of this. Let me just show you what I mean. Who is the person? Okay, who is the person that fights Gog and Magog? I don't know why this chat is just... The person that fights Gog and Magog, let me just go to the thing here. It's called Dhil Qarnayn. And nobody can figure out who Dhil Qarnayn is. Dhul Qarnayn. Everyone has so many theories. Maybe he's Cyrus the Great. Maybe he's Alexander the Great. Okay. Dhul Qarnayn is the one that fought Ya'juj and Ma'juj and triumphed. Okay. They were rendered immobilized by Dhul Qarnayn. He made a barrier, some kind of a barrier they cannot get through. Does that mean they're closed off? Not necessarily. Who is the person now? I'll give you, I mean, the cat's out of the bag, I guess. Who is the person connected to the conquest, guys? We have given you Fathan Mubinan. Allah will bring conquest from him. Chapter 48 is named after this, guys. Allah has certainly showed his messenger the vision in truth. You will surely enter Masjid al-Haram, insha'Allah, aminin. This is in the future, guys. Just put it together. Just put it together. What is the name of the surah that comes before chapter 48? What is the name of chapter 48? I'll show you here. Chapter 48 is called the Conquest. Chapter 47 is called Muhammad. And let me just see here the chat. Can you do one more impression? I have to leave that for another time. My voice is kind of dry. You know, there's something going on, guys. They're hiding something from the last near the hour. Okay, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So thank you so much for watching. It's been 3 hours, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace.